Hey Phil, welcome to the Vintage Future. Thanks for coming on the channel today.
Hey, thanks so much for having me, and cheers. I know we were just talking before we're rolling.
Yeah, totally, totally, totally. Yeah, this is gonna be awesome. So this is like your man cave, right? Yeah, I've seen it
Yes,
on your channel.
you may have watched one of my live streams from the man cave. This is my like currently I have it what do I have? It's like a weird boot poster wallet guitar showroom. I don't know what it is. This is the basement in my house. I live in Logan Square in Chicago. It's like a northern northwest side neighborhood in the city here. And yeah, I like to do sort of taken over the whole basement so I can be uninterrupted and be able to talk to somebody like yourself and everybody else. This is where I sort of try to relax. So yeah, I've got it surrounded with just like things. These are like all my vices. I've got, leather and video games and guitars and whiskey. So
Very nice.
yeah, it's like nice. I should like upgrade the Zen level in here, but that's what I do down here. Yeah.
So you guys making it through COVID okay? And the company, your family, like was it kind of a gut punch or was it like, no, we just kind of transitioned and we're good now?
Yeah, that's a interesting question that I haven't like we're kind of still in it now, right? And I haven't been able to fully digest it. So I've got a bunch of different sides of a perspective on COVID. So I'm a business owner. Uh, I have friends and family, but my wife also works at a hospital. And she sent me a photo today of her vaccination. So she got COVID vaccine today.
Huh.
Um, so like, yeah, there's different perspectives of things that like I think about with the COVID thing. Where I wash out on it is like, I'm just super lucky. I'm super lucky to have had some savings. Super lucky to not, uh, and I feel terrible for these people that work at bars and restaurants. The person that cuts my hair, I like been supporting them. So like, there's this thing where like I'm fine and I'm like kind of thriving, but I'm like also like gut punched by like all the nonsense that like is terrible happening. And then like on our business end, it's been challenging because like we don't know, especially in March, like we didn't know anything. So if you want to watch me get really emotional, I had a live stream back in March on the day that we had like a statewide or citywide like stay at home order. I came on here the day we got that notice, after having to talk to my team and saying like we don't know what's going to happen. And you know the government didn't really know how things would shake out, so it was this really weird time where I was feeling like a deep sense of responsibility to all the people that work with me. These are people that have their own families and have to buy food and clothe and shelter their families. It's like this deep level of like responsibility that we want to do what we can to like help people get through this. And so yeah, it's been challenging because like a mask is not a big deal, but it's more of like if you were in town, I couldn't show you a wallet. We used to have a lot of people that would want to come in and see the stuff themselves. So that's a customer side. And then in the shop, we've set up many members of our team. I think we have 4 people that work remotely, and it was logistically challenging for us as a business to sort of set up some people to work on things away from the shop, because at our shop we have all the tools, all the resources. So it's just a little bit of a learning curve for us to figure out how to cut and prepare certain pattern pieces to and then deliver it to people's homes, and then when it's done, like go get it and bring it back. So it's been like a little frustrating there, but having said that, we're fine. I mean, in the beginning of the pandemic, I was worried for somebody like Horween more than myself. I was worried for larger shops that had a lot of people, and we actually did a little bit of a fundraiser, um, to sort of support makers in the city of Chicago and makers that I knew, as well as healthcare workers. So somebody like my wife and the people that she works with, and so many others. So what we did is in April, it was the craziest project that I've ever done. We did a project called Makers United, where I went out to other local shops. Some of them were actually my competitors, and I would buy product from them. I wanted to support them because my thought process was like, and these were competitors that were using Horween stuff. The thought process was, if I can get more people to buy products made from Horween leather, that will help sustain this whole ecosystem of like a material I appreciate. So I wanted to figure out a way to sort of give back to Horween, support them a bit. And the best, you can't really just go to like I don't know if you craft anything, but you're probably not going to be able to support Horween unless you're buying like a boot or a shoe. Like you're not going to buy like a sheet of leather. So that was my thought process. So I'd buy all these products from my competitors, and then I put them together in one package and a couple different price tiers, where you could come to my site. You could buy $100 box of goodies from all sorts of different makers, and then we would give 10% of those proceeds of all the sales. So top line revenue we gave right back to the hospital, and these funds were able to provide some extra resources for doctors and nurses, hospital staff that really needed it. And the things that they received from that funds, and it wasn't just from us, like many people donated to this. But if you think about being a doctor back in the start of the pandemic, like they didn't really know what was going on. So they had to fully isolate from their families. So this would like house another, a little apartment near the hospital campus for, a nurse to go stay at. So they didn't have to worry about getting their family sick. And so that there was this moment at the beginning of the pandemic, which really turned into a lot of like philanthropic feelings for myself of trying to give back and like to support people. And that's something I learned about myself during the pandemic is that I really care a lot. And try, like, more than care is like I really want to do, like I want to support people as directly as I can. So yeah, it's been a really crazy time, and it's still crazy. Like so many people are dying, and there's really nothing to be happy about. But I'm trying, I think everybody's just trying to do what they can to, support their families, be in touch with people. And we just need to, I mean, it sounds kind of corny, but we just need to, be together and support each other. And I think that's really the biggest thing I've gotten out of this is just some more appreciation for people and like yourself.
It's crazy like how many people have heard say something like that. And so I think that really is the thread. Like it's cool seeing like humanity come together. And that's one of the things that I loved about, I actually did see your live stream that you're talking about. I saw it after the fact. Like all your live streams, I never seem to be able to actually make that happen. But yeah, and your love for humanity came out. And so, yeah, that video to me, that live stream video that you did, sitting right there with your bass
Yeah.
and a beer, that spoke volumes. That was good. Yeah.
The reason I do those videos, and maybe this will get into our bigger conversation here, but the reason I do those videos, everything that I've been doing for the last 10 years, since 2011 with Ashland, is I've been trying to share my experience with leather and trying to teach people a little bit more about the language of leather, because, and we were just talking about before we turned the camera on, it's hard. Before I worked at the tannery, I didn't know anything about leather. I literally thought leather was one thing, and I thought that it was brown. And then once I walked into this tannery doors, you see all these different colors and all these different textures. And then I had such a guide in Skip Horween to be able to teach me a little bit about what I should be looking for and thinking about when I see that raw material. And my whole goal for starting Ashland really was to explain people all the things that I've learned, because it's so wide and it really is like a complete foreign language. There's like, what is leather grain? I think you could say that to 99.9% of the people in the world, and they number one, wouldn't really care. And number two, like, wouldn't be able to tell what it is. So I think that I've become such a nerd about the leather, just as I have about video games and music. I just get really excited about it. And that's how Ashland started, is we wanted to share those different materials with the world. And now that I started to turn on the camera a little bit more often. It's given me a really good outlet to be able to describe the things that I see in a little bit more detail. And then, with social media and stuff, I've, like most people have been on there for years, but it's good for me to sort of get in and interact and maybe help people make a good decision for themselves. So like I have all these boots and shoes sitting in a row behind me that I like, but maybe there's something that you're looking at that you really like, but you don't know how to assess it. So I'm trying to make different videos on my YouTube channel. Usually there's stuff about wallets and it's more like self-promotion a little bit, trying to then show people the wallets that they've ordered before they even get them. But I also try to intersperse little bits of knowledge, little bits of information for what I'm looking for in leather. And you may have seen just recently, I did one about leather break, where the leather creases in on itself. Like that's something that most people might be aware of, but they don't understand like why it's happening or like what to really look for. So I think things to that nature really affect like how a boot or shoe is going to wear in. And I want to provide that knowledge so you can choose a good material for a boot for yourself. So it's so difficult because I can say the word Chrome Excel or I can say the word Shell Cordovan and like, what does that even mean? Right. So, and I could write a book on each of those and, it's so hard to distill it down. So that's why I think these little bits of longer format conversations and a little bit longer YouTube videos and like some HD video and photos will really help people to get a little bit more understanding of this stuff.
Oh man, it's fantastic. Your videos. It's ironic, and it's because of your experience at Horween, and we'll talk about that in a second. But yeah, my go-to guy to understand my boots is actually not a boot guy. It's you.
Oh,
I mean, you like boots, you wear boots,
I
just about boots, but your profession is leather and wallets. And so you're my go-to guy because of those exact videos that you're talking about. Yeah, because you got a bunch of guys like me who are kind of self-taught, saying all these wrong terms. And then I go listen to you and I'm like, oh,
but let's get into that really quick because there's some specific like marketing terms that bug the crap out of me. So if I told, so maybe you could answer me this. From your experience, what does the term genuine leather mean?
now that I'm in the boot world, like I kind of, and listening to you all the time, I kind of know the difference between that and like a full grain leather. But yeah, before that, I just thought, man, if it's genuine leather, that's the best there is. Like I'm buying the best possible leather I can buy. And same with top grain. If I
Yeah.
saw that on something before, I would think this is the stuff. So anyway, anyways, I don't. Yeah.
So let's break down both of those, I guess. But there's like so many different spin words. So because leather is such a complicated language, you have marketers that work perhaps in the automotive industry that will say, "Hey, this is genuine leather on these seats." But like a layperson will go, "Oh, hell yeah. Like I got some genuine leather." Like that's awesome, right? But like a tanner would say like, "Well, that doesn't tell me anything." And what to me what genuine leather means, like if you were to tell a tanner genuine leather, that literally means if it came from an animal, like it was tanned and cured and it won't deteriorate, that's leather, like genuine leather. So that's like a real non word. Like it doesn't mean anything. Top grain leather, if you were to tell a tanner like, hey, this is top grain leather, that has a very specific definition for them. And all that means is that it's regular leather. Like everything Horween makes is top grain, which I don't think the world understands top grain in that same way. So the way that term came about is I actually have a piece of leather here. This is actually a piece of chamois from Horween. It's an oiled nubuck leather. We can get into what that means too. But this is a top grain leather. And all top grain leather means is during the tanning process, once they chrome tan the leather or veg tan the leather, they need to thin down the leather to an even thickness because when this tans, it doesn't tan to an even thickness in specific parts of the skin. So a shoemaker, like I'm looking at some 1,000 Mile boots right now. So like Wolverine can't make a boot if it's a millimeter thicker on this side than on this side, and maybe there's like lumps in the center. So what the tannery does is they have a process called splitting. So they'll take a full side of leather and feed it through a splitting machine. And what a splitting machine does is it runs basically like a huge bandsaw through the cross section of the leather, and it removes, it actually just splits it in half, right? So technically it doesn't remove anything, it just separates the two pieces. So there's a grain layer on top and a flesh layer underneath. When it goes through that splitting machine, you still have the grain layer, and now you have something underneath that's called a split. Now, both of those are still genuine leather, but only one of them is top grain, and that would be the top part, which is the actual grain part. So at Horween in specific, which is my knowledge or like my understanding of leather, they never use the splits. They actually will sell them off to other tanneries like CF Stead and other places that actually make incredible leathers off of that split. So saying top grain versus a split doesn't much tell you anything either. There are some terms like I think the term genuine leather is really what they're trying to say is corrected grain leather. Does that ring a bell with you? Like maybe I should look this up quickly. But in fact, let's do that. What is genuine leather? So let's see.
Yeah, for me, top grain. So this might just be me. I haven't really checked with anyone, but all growing up, if I saw top grain on something, I assumed top meant something more like top quality, right? Oh, it's like, oh, top tier kind of stuff, and it's like, no, it's like literally physically the top.
Yeah, it's a good, but it sounds good, right? It's like a positive word. It's the top. So this article from businessinsider.com says genuine leather doesn't just mean the product is made of real leather, which it is, but it also means it's the lowest quality of all products made out of real leather. So like somebody just made that up, right? They're saying genuine leather is the worst, but let's see if they say why. They say genuine leather doesn't last as long or look as nice as high quality leathers. You'll typically find it in belts from mall stores, shoes from lower price department stores, and bags or other goods in the lower price range. Goods marked genuine leather will be several layers of low quality leather bonded together with glue and then painted to look uniform. It's made from what is left over when other higher grades are stripped away for pricier projects. So like they're not really saying like what it is because they can't. Like genuine leather is everything. So here's what they say what top grain leather is. Top grain leather is a grade of leather you'll find in fine, they quote, leather goods and can be considered the middle of the road quality of leather. It's used in the vast majority of purses for women as well as small leather goods for men's like wallets and sold by well-known designer brands. It's made by splitting a piece of full grain leather and sanding away imperfections in the hide and stamping a fake grain on it. So this is what I was looking for. They think that top grain leather has to be corrected grain, I believe. And let's explain that. So the splitting process, we remove the split and now we have a grain layer on the top. I call that top grain. They don't think that's good enough. They're defining top grain as basically if you were to take a very grainy piece of leather like this Dublin here, which is like super, super grainy. And I know that you're familiar with it. I saw your boots.
Oh yeah.
It has like very pronounced hair holes in it. So if you look closely, you might see some like little bits of wrinkling. You might be able to see little bits of texture. What a tannery does to sort of even that out is they'll run this through sandpaper. It's actually called a buffing machine, and they'll sand down this top layer of grain. And to me, I call that corrected grain. They call it top grain. But I think they're able to do that, and neither is better or worse, but they're still trying to spin it. So like, oh, top grain, that's like really good. Now, full grain leather, they say, let's see how they describe this. Full grain leather takes an entire grain of hide. What does that even mean? With all the imperfections and inherent toughness of the material. So like none of that is true, and it's all nonsense. Like that doesn't even, that's like not a, like that literally can't make sense of what they're trying to say. And they said it's often used for heavy duty leathers like weapon holsters, utility belts. So like there's so much more that I can continue to read from them. But like my point is people use these terms to try to make things sound better than they are. And really at the end of the day, I think there's two things to be concerned with. Anybody that's trying to decide what leather good to get, the first thing you should look at is, do you like the way that it looks? So like everything that's behind me at one point or another, I like the way it looks. I still like it and I bought it. The second thing to look at is, do like, now that we have Reddit, like you're talking about, do a quick search on Reddit and search for 1,000 mile boots and see what people's experiences are with not only Wolverine, who makes the 1,000 mile boots, but also like find out which specific material that they were referring to on that boot. So this is a 1,000 mile boot in black Chrome Excel that I totally love. So you can do 2 bits of research here. Search for 1,000 mile boot and see what people say. Do they like it? Like, I can give you my opinion on it. You could actually message me and ask me what I think, like if you're trying to shop for something. And then the other thing is, the other information you have is this is made out of Chrome Excel leather. So do a lot of reading about it, because you're going to get people that are biased like myself and tell you what they think, but try to find like a counterpoint. Try to find somebody that's going to like really get angry at it, because it's not like, if I say I love it, it's not like the end all be all. That's just my opinion. So it's real. Those are the 2 most important things. Like, if you think this looks super badass, like I do, in fact, I bought these for my wife because I thought they were so cool. You should buy it. And then, in fact, buy it after you do a little bit of research on the material. Like, is this boot going to fall apart? Is the leather going to rip? But this is technically a corrected grain leather. If you're going to be really specific about it, this is not full grain like Business Insider is saying is the best. The Chrome Excel is not how they would define that. And in fact, like Shell Cordovan, which I think I have, well, I have a whole shell here.
Yeah.
Here. So Shell Cordovan, this is such a unique thing. There's no grain at all. There's no grain. There's no buffing. So that doesn't fit into any category. So the way that they're defining these terms, they're trying to pigeonhole things into buckets that, number one, doesn't make sense to do, and number two, is just very misleading. So Shell Cordovan doesn't have any grain at all, and if you're going to say that full grain's the best, you're objectively wrong, because most people think Cordovan's the best. I mean, it really just depends on what you like for a look, and then do a little bit of research on how people's particular leathers and boots and shoes are wearing in, or wallets like I make.
Yeah.
That's a big rant. I get really angry about this.
Oh, dude.
See, I'm getting red.
Yeah, I don't want to make that guy. Oh man.
That's a filter. I'm not red. I'm just a filter.
Oh man. So, for anybody who's wondering, like, how does this guy know all this stuff? So you worked at Horween. Tell us, how did you start working at Horween? How long did you work there? What's the story of how you started working at Horween? Yeah.
So Horweens for me started as a summer job that ended up lasting 14 years. I started there in 2006, or was it 2005? I'm terrible with dates, but it was 2005 or 2006. I moved back to Chicago, and I was looking for a job. And Skip Horween, they had recently had a fire at the tannery, which is like really crazy, because all of the Horween formulations or at least at that time, they were all on little sheets of paper, like half sheets. And Skip said, "Hey, I know you're like good with computers and stuff. Do you want to come by and sort of type in all these formulations? Because I'm worried that, if we have another fire, like it could have been really bad. We would have lost, 100 years of formulations." So I came by and I said, sure. And he said, why don't you come around for the summer? And then, when school semester starts again, you can, focus on school. So I did the work for the summer. And instead of taking those formulations and just like, I could have just photocopied them or taken photographs of them and digitized it that way, I put them into Excel and I programmed it so they could make variable batches of Chrome Excel, for example. So each formulation of Chrome Excel has like a certain amount of this, certain amount of that. And depending on how much raw stock you put into that mill, you may need a little bit more, or a little bit less tallow, or a little bit more paraffin wax. So I allowed them to create variable formulations without having to manually calculate them every time, and ended up saving the tanner quite a bit of time. And the job sort of expanded from there. And they that summer job lasted for 14 years, and that's kind of how I got into it. And I was like, my time spent there, when I first started, I was like, okay, this would be a nice job, and I'll get some money. I can, pay for my rent and go to school. But it quickly turned into this passion, and I think the passion is, full credit should be given to Skip Horween, because he would sort of share his passion with me that he probably got from his father and he got from his father. It was really interesting because Skip would take me around, and he thought it was very important for the owners as well as everybody that works there to get a little inside the shop and understand what the heck they were doing. Because if I'm just in an office typing in numbers all day, that doesn't help make leather. And he was very adamant about that. So he would take my hand, and we would take a little tour around the factory every day, and he would hand me a piece of leather and tell me how he thought about it and the things that he was observing about it. What does it feel like? What does it smell like? What's the luster like? What's the firmness? Is it soft or round or things like that? And we would do that all day. And I came to quickly realize there was literally an infinite amount of leathers that a tannery could make. And Horween makes quite a few. They've become popular for three of them, but there's literally thousands. And then you've got iterations of color on top of that, and thickness. So they're making so many different things, and it blew my mind, because again, I thought leather was just like brown, and I didn't know there were different types. So that's really, the passion came from that. And Skip is sort of like me now. He was back then, where he just loved the boots and the shoes, and he would buy them and we would talk about those. And then I got this crazy habit, like most of those boots I would wear at work, and I just love them. So I ended up, my first passion was for the shoes and the footwear. Basically all the customers of Horween, I was like really excited, because I wanted to experience the sheets of leather that we were producing in another way. And I don't want to jump too far ahead, but that's how I started doing the wallets and stuff too. Is, I actually caught exactly how I would have done back in the day. I went through my shop now, and prepared some examples of things that I want to see how they age. So when I walk through the tannery, I want to experience the sheet of leather. I would take a little cutting like this, maybe a little smaller, and put it in my pocket, because I knew that the leather aged in a certain way, but there's only really one way to see how it's going to age, and that's to wear it for yourself. So I would be at times walking around with, 4 different cuttings of leather in my pocket at all times, just to see how, Chrome Excel and black is going to wear in. So it was this like fun experience of being able to continue the appreciation for just the raw material, like in a useful way. Was, now that I'm carrying leather in my pocket, like, let's make something out of it. So I bought a kit from Tandy Leather, way back in the day, called The Art of Hand Sewing Leather by Stolman, which I think they still sell. And it came with like some blunt needles and some wax canvas or wax thread and some beeswax. And I started doing that in my living room, and would just make stuff for myself. And that's kind of how the experience like perpetuated. And 10 years, it's almost been 10 years. In fact, it's been over 10 years, but Ashland formally started in June 2011. Now we have a team of 9 people, and we're making tons of different products. And it seems like people are really appreciative, like are really getting into the wallets. And now we're doing watch bands and like belts and all sorts of key accessories. And I want to do so much stuff. We're going to do bags and things like that. So it's like really taken off from like this nerdy guy typing things into a computer. And now it's just like me surrounded by leather boots in my basement.
Oh man. So tell me about how you met the Horweens and what your first experience with a shell cordovan wallet was.
Okay. Good question. And I can tell we had a conversation before we turned the camera on, but so this must have been 1996 ish, maybe 95. I met Nick Horween in a middle school math class, and I still remember this class. We had a ball together being idiot kids. So that's how I met Nick Horween, and we've been friends ever since. It's been a long time. That's crazy. Uh, so I met Nick and quickly became friends. You know, we would go to, doing kid stuff like, hey, let's have a sleepover on the weekend. We would have a bunch of friends over, and those are like my first friends. Like, I don't know if you remember when you were a kid, but like you would kind of only hang out with people in the neighborhood. Nick was like my first friend that like didn't live next door. So that was pretty cool. But Nick, obviously Nick Horween, this is his family's business, Horween Leather. They have been they've owned a tannery since 1905. And he probably told me that when we were 15 or whatever, but it didn't have any impact. But one day Nick gave me a shell cordovan wallet that he must have just been given to himself. Somebody probably gave it to him. He said, hey, Phil, you should have this wallet. This is what my family does. I said, oh, that's pretty cool. So he gave me a wallet, and it was actually made from Allen Edmonds way back when. And I was like, oh, that's pretty cool. And it was really nice of him to do that for me. Like it's kind of crazy for like a 15-year-old to have shell cordovan anything, right? Dude, like, I only have like 2 pairs of shell anythings right now, and one of is like a old used thing off of eBay. So I still can't afford it. But so Nick, we're good friends, and he actually took me to the tannery probably when we were in high school. We took the train down. The train from the suburbs ends right at the tannery. And we walked around, and he showed me this factory, and it's like a working museum there. It's literally like going back into time. And it's kind of part of the philosophy that they have is we're not going to change anything to make it faster if we can't make the quality the same. So none of these things I understood at the time, but he took me through this place, and it was just like a totally bizarre like world. I'd never had seen a factory before, let alone like an ancient factory. So he showed me around. It's like totally piqued my interest, and the years later I started working there. So it's kind of crazy. And I should say that wallet though, that's we talked about before, that wallet from Allen Edmonds actually ended up breaking, which became a little bit more of an inspiration for Ashland. Is we see some of the things that some manufacturers choose to do. In fact, most wallets you find, there's specific methods that they use to construct the wallets, which to me explains their lack of understanding of the material. But specifically what they do, like this is the Capone money clip that I've been carrying. What they'll do is instead of like sort of making a sandwich of all the different layers of leather like we've done on this, they'll take the back piece of leather, make it a little bit longer so it kind of comes out to here, and then they'll thin down that section of leather and wrap it around, glue it down, and stitch it down, which looks great. It looks really good. The problem though is when they thin down leather, especially on corners or in stress points, you really ruin the tensile strength of the leather. So you can't, like, that's why the wallets break. People are thinning down leather to make a really sleek, like really refined looking wallet, but they just have no inherent structure to them because you're removing so much substance and substrate of this leather. Let me try to demo that again with this piece. So you have the grain layer and you have a flesh layer underneath. If you think of this whole cross section here as like a metaphor for your house, or an analogy would be your house. If you took and you thinned this down so you could be able to fold it over nicely so it wouldn't like bubble out like this here, you can see like it doesn't sit nicely because I haven't thinned it. When they thin it down for that turn around the edge, it's like taking away the foundation of your house. So you're barely left with any structure because this whole network of fibers inside this thickness of leather, they all work together. They're like a network. It's a system that binds the grain layer all the way down through all these other layers of fibers. It's kind of like a big mess of spaghetti or something, but they all work together. So if you cut out one of them, the rest of them are just weaker. So that's kind of, what I learned from that. All my past experiences I've noticed are like coming to make me who I am today. So
yeah,
like including the music stuff.
Yeah, no, that's amazing. So before we like jump into more, specific Ashland stuff and more specifics of the leather and all that, you know, as a fellow Horween nerd, like I just got to know. Okay, so Chrome Excel, they always throw out this, you know, phrase like 89 processes, you know, 28 working days and all 5 floors. But for all we know, you know, 2 of those floors are like a cafeteria and a library, right? So what is the significance, you know, behind that phrase? Like, what do they do on each floor? What are some of these processes? And
It's a good question because it is a little bit markety-ish. Like it sounds like a little fantastical, but it's true. So the tannery is so ad hoc in terms of its layout because it's so old. Like it started off as one thing and they kept having to modify their business over the years. So they kept adding new machines and they go, well, where's this one going to fit? And they would just like put a splitting machine there and not think about the flow. So like honestly, them saying that we use 5 floors is like a super negative. Like any manufacturing facility would go like, are you crazy? You're doing that much material handling? That's nuts. But the significance of that statement, with my a little bit more like behind the curtain knowledge, what that really tells you is there's a lot that goes into it. So the basement floor of Horween is de-hairing, chrome tanning, splitting, and then they have retanning down there. So you got, and there's more, like those are just big functions. And then you have to hot stuff the leather. That's a whole other like week of processing, and hot stuffing is a specific conversation too. They have to dry it, which is done on another floor. They have to split it again. They have to give it a nice polishing, which happens on another floor, and then they have to finish it, which is like a lot of processes on one floor, and then they have to oil it, which is on another floor, and then take it to measure and ship. So it's so much. There's so much that goes on in this leather. So I wouldn't take so much, and it's the same that goes with the shell cordovan, which I love. Like I wouldn't take the and I do it. I use the terms too, like when I try to sell stuff. Like I wouldn't I wouldn't like put the quality based on the fact that it takes a long time. I would just trust them that they know like it has to take that long to be able to make it right. So 28 days is not an exaggeration. That's like as fast as they can make it. And in fact, the longer the leather sits from some of these processing steps where they actually treat it with oils, there's something that happens in the aging of the leather that gives it a little bit more, it gives it a little bit of a better look. And maybe the analog would be like aging a steak. But it happens with shell cordovan too. Is like the longer the leather sits and isn't messed with, like the better it gets. So you should just trust in knowing that, like, let them take their time. Like the longer they take, it's often for the better. And that's not to say that they couldn't be more efficient, which they certainly could. But with the 28 days and how 92 processes, that's what it takes to make this leather. There are other leathers in the world that don't have that many steps. That might be great too. So that shouldn't be like a quality assessment of how long it takes. But it is a very complicated leather. I don't think Horween actually makes a lot of money on the Chrome Excel. I think this is a product that they try to get in the door with. You know, they want you to buy some of this so they can sell you some other stuff, because they know you want this, and they know the things you're going to make out of it are going to most likely sell if you can turn it into something nice. But it's a special leather. People from other tanneries come by and they'll feel this leather. And I think the thing that they notice about the Horween stuff in specific is just how full it is. Like there's so much inside of this that you can really tell. And I know you know this because I think you quoted it back at me, is this is almost 50% waxes, oils, and greases, which is insane to think about. So it has so much in it, and that's a very unique thing about Horween. If you feel other leathers, they kind of feel empty, where the Horween stuff is like super rich. It has like a really nice roundness to it, and it's firm and soft at the same time. It's very unique, and it takes a special person to like sit there and like observe that. You know, not most people aren't going to look at this and go like, okay, that like has a different structure to it, like it has a different feel. So I wouldn't read too much into like the length of time and how many floors it travels, but more of like the result, like what is that about? if
Got
that
it.
makes any
So
sense.
when, yeah, yeah. So when when Horween says that, it's their way of saying like we put everything we've got into this, that kind of thing.
I think honestly, I'm going to be straight up. I think they're just doing that because it sounds good, and it does, but it's also true. You know, it's it's kind of boring to just be like, hey, this is great. You know, like you got to tell a little bit of a story, and I think that's what they're trying to do. And I believe Nick Horween wrote that. Nick is a very good writer, and I noticed that he does a good job at describing things in terms that I don't end up doing, where he'll use descriptive words that like really like evoke like a sense of like this old worldliness. And that might be how he came about that. I think it's a little bit of marketing in there. Chrome Excel is like the farthest end of like the like richness. Horween can also make drier leathers, and they can like this leather that I pulled out earlier. This is very dry feeling. It's like a lot more delicate. So I should be careful to say um, or be like very specific about what I'm saying. Chrome Excel is super rich. Shell Cordovan is super rich. A lot of the stuff Horween does is like very tough and masculine, but they can also do some lighter stuff. They don't do, just from my experience being there, it's very challenging to keep light colors in that building because of the environment that they're in the city, like traffic and brake dust and stuff. So sometimes they struggle with lighter colors, but they can very easily make a little bit more delicate, like more feminine, like more drapey sort of bag type leathers, jacket stuff too. But they've become more well known for that like super tough, like masculine aesthetic. But like this is Horween too, and it, you know, most people wouldn't really be able to know.
There used to be a lot of tanneries in Chicago. You said.
Yeah, gosh, I forget the amount, but there I know at one point in time there were over 100 tanneries in the city of Chicago, and I'm pretty sure. I think I'm speculating slightly, but I'm pretty sure it's just a pure result of the stockyards. So in Chicago, back in the late 1800s, I believe, this was like the hub for railroads, and you know farmers would send their livestock to get bought and sold here in Chicago and then slaughtered. So all that was happening on the south side of Chicago here, and there was a famous book written about it called The Jungle. So I think with byproducts of that industry, they needed to do something with all these hides, and you know, industrial revolution was happening, and you had a lot of entrepreneurial people like Isidore Horween in 1905 start up his own tannery. So if you take a look at a Google map of where Horween is, you'll notice it's on a river, and I think they used to get barge shipments, and it's on a train track. But I think they used to get barge shipments and train shipments of hides from the south side, and that whole strip of Elston Avenue along the river was tanneries, and there was just tanneries everywhere. In fact, my business partner Dan worked across the river from Horween at a tannery that's no longer there called Gutman, and they were the second to last tannery in Chicago. So it's pretty wild to think about that. And over the course of 100 years, you know, you go from this thriving tannery scene to one, and you know, there's probably a lot of good reasons for that. But there's also some concerning reasons, which maybe we don't want to get into too much political stuff. But you know, I like American made stuff. I like supporting people. I like treating people the right way, and it's a little concerning to think about some of the environments that other tanneries might be working in. Environmental regulations, like how are you treating the people that work there? How are you treating the neighborhood around that tannery? There's some concerning things that are happening in the world, and don't have. To take me with a grain of salt here because I don't have specific examples, but it's my understanding there's some pretty shady stuff going on. Where at Horween, they're following very strict environmental regulations, and they're following all the rules from the state and the city and the federal government, as well as being audited by international regulatory bodies. And they're getting like rated on these scales. I haven't been there for a year, so I don't know what their rating is currently. But these are the sorts of things where you have foreign auditors come in from the United Kingdom to make sure that you're not like pumping waste into the river, and you're not putting anything hazardous into your environment, things like that. And they do a very strict audit of that. And then they're also measuring, how much electricity are you using, how much energy, how much water are you using per area of leather. And Horween's not great at that. So that's kind of like, that's a huge topic. But can I get into that for you? This is total sidebar, but let's get into this, because when you talk about sustainability, I think it's a really important topic. If you were to measure Horween against most of the world in terms of energy per meter squared of leather, they're very poor. They're very low. And there's a bunch of reasons for that. Like, this is a piece of shell cordovan. It's about two square feet if you were to measure the area of this. And you get 2 of those per animal. Plus you get a horse front, which is probably another 22 square feet. But that takes 6 months to make, and all the overhead from the tannery. Chrome Excel, we just talked about, runs all the 5 floors in 28 working days. This takes a lot of energy, and they do some specific air drying on the Chrome Excel because it makes a better leather. They're not making leather to make good like environmental numbers. They're making leather to make like a good leather. So because they air dry this leather, it hangs on a hook like this for sometimes 10, 11 days in like a steam heated room. And it dries that way. And if you were to ever dry your clothing on a clothesline, you would notice that it kind of shrinks up, and you get less yield on the Chrome Excel for that reason. It shrinks as it dries. It just makes a better leather. So because they're getting measured on how much energy does it take to make how much area of leather, they suck, because it takes a long time, it takes a lot of energy, and it's shrinking. So they got a lot of stuff working against them. However, you're looking at a table of boots behind me. Some of those I've had for over 12 years, and they're still fine. Now, if you find a piece of leather from some competitive tannery, and I don't have any specific examples, so again, take this with a grain of salt, but you might be able to imagine there could be another tannery in the world that hits amazing efficiency numbers in terms of energy use and water usage, but maybe they're making something that only lasts for a year. Maybe it rips and falls apart. So Nick and Skip have an argument that falls on deaf ears of perhaps we should be measuring the energy efficiency of a tannery based on the life cycle of the product. So, if you're going to make a pair of shoes that's only designed to last a season, you should be judged differently than a pair of shoes made from Horween leather that's designed to last 50 years. So how do you calculate that? And I think that's something that's like a difficult conversation, because like you can't really measure it. But I think that aspect of the world we live in right now of fast fashion is like, people should feel good about buying something that's going to last a long time. And I wish more people would be on board with that, so that's a huge tangent, but I think it's pretty important.
No, I resonate with that. Thank you for sharing that.
Yeah.
It's important for people to understand that kind of thing. And it's the people that are, usually the people that are watching these things that buy the wallets, that buy the boots, that actually do care and are interested in that kind of information. So.
They were preaching to the choir though. Right?
Yeah, totally.
Like they know.
Hopefully the number grows.
Yeah. You deserve it, by the way, man. I'm a big fan.
Thank you. Yeah, this is, apart from even just the interview, man, just hanging out. This is amazing.
Yeah. Well, and when we're out of COVID, we're going to jam together too, right?
Yeah. I better get my...
You say you play drums and sing? Yeah,
so I played drums first. Started that when I was 6th grade. And then I learned to play guitar because the story is I could sing. And it was the youth group at church, and they're like, dude, you should sing. And being the self-conscious, 7th grader that I was like, I'm not singing. I am not standing up there like this. That's so awkward. I don't want to look dumb, So then the bass player says, well, why don't you learn to play guitar? Because then you wouldn't look dumb. You would look freaking awesome. I was like, okay, I'll learn to play guitar if it means I'm not going to look like an idiot. And so that's what I did. So I learned to play the guitar and started singing and stuff. But drums is really my first love. It's where I feel like I can express myself the most.
Yes. Well, I love drums are my favorite instrument, and I love playing with drummers. So seriously, like no joke, if in and when you get around Chicago and we don't have a crazy pandemic, we should hit up a studio around here. Or actually, I'm out by UConn frequently with my dad out there. We can set something up.
That would be awesome.
Yeah,
and
man.
hats off to you bass players too. I think I wrote this on like an email or something or comment on your channel. I don't know if you've seen it, but I always tell everybody like the bass player is the unsung hero of the band. You know, like it's like a belt. You know, nobody notices it till you rip it off and the pants fall down. That's how the bass player is. It's like we need that guy. Yeah.
You know what? It's funny that you say that because I've been thinking about analogs in my life, and I think that the way I approach, and stop me if I'm getting in the wrong direction here, but the way I approach making stuff is kind of how I approach playing the bass. It's like I see the bass as like a functional thing that like brings things together. It's never like if you're hearing it, it's probably annoying. Right? So like you kind of want to not hear it, but you miss it when it's not there, right? So that's like the 1,000 Mile Boot for me. That like inspires a lot of what I like. Is like the 1,000 Mile Boot is the bass guitar of rock music or something. Like it's not in the way, but like if this didn't exist, I'd be upset. Basically, I like this because it doesn't have a bunch of crap on it. And you see it a lot in some more fashiony brands where like, oh, we better put some like crazy something like pink little stitch right here for, I don't know. Like there's like, I want like a clean, simple, nice thing. And it seems like with, and I don't know the reason for it, but it seems like the world we live in, there's always got to be somebody outdoing the next person, and they forget to like just do the fundamental, which is the bass. Like I want the bass and just something just straightforward and good, and it doesn't have to be more than what it is. And that's why I like the 1,000 Mile Boot a lot, and that's why like all my wallets, there's no like nonsense on it. It's just like a functional good thing that's going to last you a long time. So I've been thinking about my bass playing a lot like that. Is it like sort of just is there and like it's not annoying, but like it feels good. Like that's how I feel about some of the leather stuff that I do. And on top of that, I also like cooking a lot. So like imagine you had an amazing steak and you're gonna cook it. Like all you gotta do is sear it, toss it in the oven a couple minutes, and like salt and pepper. Like you're talking about like the best steak in the world with the Chrome Excel and the shell cordovan. Like don't mess with it. Just like let that leather do what it's supposed to do and just like be what it is, because it's damn awesome. Like you don't have to mess with it. Just leave it. And so that's what I do. I just want it. And you know, we get a lot of customers that want like crazy color combos, and I like them because I've never seen it before. But sometimes like just like a simple like just natural shell cordovan is awesome, or like just color 8, or like whatever. It's just like a one color. So I like, there's something about like a pure simple thing that is really satisfying. And I think a lot of people sometimes get that itch too, where it's like, we better put like pink and green together and like yellow stitching. And like, it's mind blowing because it's like, nobody's ever seen that before. But like, my roots really lay in like a simple, clean thing. And, I think that comes from playing the bass, not being a lead singer, not being the lead guitar player.
Yeah, lead guitar players, man. Yeah, some of my favorite people are lead guitar players. Like my friend Tommy, he's the guy. But yeah, it's like there's a certain personality there, right? Like you can't really do it right if you don't have that personality that you want to be like in the spotlight and do something new and crazy. Like I see what you say about your wallets. So like this is my Fat Herbie.
Nice.
Color 8, all reverse color 8, and
oh, that was all reverse.
Yeah, it was.
Dude, that's awesome.
It
Look
is.
how it look. I thought it was a natural shell for a sec. That's so nice.
Yeah, it's just
Looks like glass now.
yeah. Yeah, and it's aging well, but like your designs are simple and functional and they put the leather on display. So, yeah, what you're saying, it's true. And then the Capone. Yeah.
Oh, you just got
But
that one too.
yeah,
Nice.
just started with this one and this is cool front pocket deal.
We're Capone bros.
Yeah. Yeah, totally. So,
You know, what's funny is like I might not come across this way on online, but I'm one of the more introverted people that I know. So that might have something to do with playing the bass and designing the things that we make. It's like not I'm not in your face. I'm just kind of introverted kind of guy. Just want to hang out in my man cave.
that's so funny. Yeah, I would not have guessed that. Yeah, you're very comfortable on camera and
It's
you're
because
fun.
I love this stuff. Like I can't go to a party and talk about this. Right.
Oh, it's so true. It's so true. Yeah. So, yeah, let's jump into specifics of Ashland then. Like, first of all, yeah, how did it start? Who is Dan? What does the name mean? Where did that come from? All that.
Great, great. Well, so I was back to the story I was telling earlier about buying that hand sewing kit and teaching myself how to sew the leather and experience it a little bit more than just a sheet of leather. Started making those wallets in my living room, and the things I was making kind of look like small envelopes. And I was like practicing on that, hand cutting and stuff, and just going to work and like not really telling anybody about it. One day I was having break time with Dan. Hey, what did you do this weekend? Oh, I've been making a gift for my wife. I said, dude, really? What did you make her? Well, I made her a bag. It's like, really? What, you made like a leather bag? He's like, yeah, man, it's taking forever. And he put so much work into this thing. He didn't have a sewing machine or any sewing objects. He was lacing it. So he was hand cutting and like hand punching holes and then like lacing like thick pieces of leather around to bind it all together. It took him so long. It was awesome though. And so he told me about that and he brought it in. He was like, yeah, you want to see it? So he brings it in. I'm like, man, that's pretty, like, you did this? Well, you know what? Like, I've been making stuff too. And I actually didn't have anything at the tannery, but we kind of had this like moment of like clicking of, hey, maybe we should be making some bags. So back then we thought we were looking at the leather and we knew all the customers and we noticed that all of them, there were no female brands. So we thought at first, like, why don't we start making some bags for women? And we actually were slightly successful. We sold a bunch of bags, like purses and stuff. But we were outsourcing it to some other factories. And, I hired we didn't have a lot of money, but I hired a designer person to like sketch out a little bag and we made a few and sold a few. And then I was still working on wallets and stuff on my own. And we had a customer come into Horween and they met with Nick. And there were a lot of times at the tannery where we would get customers from all over the world that would come in. They're trying to buy new product. What's the new hot thing? So these guys from Japan, they were buyers for a larger chain of stores in East Asia, and Nick showed them his fat Herbie. So I'd made him a Herbie, and they go, "Oh my god, this is like they loved it."
That's so great.
And that like was really exciting, and they really set us off. They ended up ordering one big order from us, and that turned into me and Dan making wallets for all day and night. After like we were working at Horween, we'd go home, make wallets, work all weekend, and then they ordered more. And I think at that point we're like, okay, well, like we got to do this, and we made a little website and started selling wallets on our own. But so yeah, my business partner's Dan Cordova. He has a really interesting last name that kind of sounds like Cordovan.
Yeah.
But I think his lineage is from Cordoba, Spain, which is, I believe, where shell Cordovan originated. It has nothing to do with Dan. It's just coincidence. But yeah. So we partnered up and we kind of immediately switched to wallets. So We also realized that like we didn't understand women at all, even to this day. So we
Yeah.
kind of bailed on the purses.
Yeah. So tell me about the designs of the wallets, like the gangster names and all that stuff. Like, how did that pop in your head at the very beginning, or where? Yeah.
No, I've had a great like one of my best friends I met in college in Santa Cruz, and he still lives out there in Santa Barbara, but his name is Noah. Noah Barron. In fact, if anybody wants to look him up, he's like an incredible creative director type of guy. Uh, so Noah and I were talking. This must have been 2010 ish, and I showed him my wallet, and I was like, trying to come up with a name for this because I don't want to just call it like a double bifold. And here's my Fat Herbie. So like we were like, how do you come up with a name for a wallet? It's kind of silly, and kind of realized that it was a little bit arbitrary. But he had a suggestion and a thought. He said, "Well, you guys are from Chicago. Part of your brand is being in Chicago. It's all Chicago made. What's something that's really Chicago that the rest of the world thinks of?" And I said, "I don't know, like hot dogs and pizza." And he's like, "No, you probably don't want to go down that route." Uh, but he said, what I think of as gangsters, Al Capone, which we now have a wallet for. And then I started researching that. I went down that angle. It's probably like Wikipedia or something. And I started coming up with specifically Chicago gangster names. And there was this guy named Fat Herbie. And I go, that's like a perfect name for this. And then you keep going down the list, and we've kind of run out of like good ones, but there's other really great gangsters. The best ones are like blank the blank, like Johnny the Fox, Tony the Ant. And I was like, those are like so good. That's like such a good name. But like that, they kind of ends there. Some of them are like really not terribly exciting. They don't really flow that well. Like Tommy Gunn or something stupid like that. So we've kind of come to the end of the line of like Chicago specific gangsters. So I might have to branch out to like other regions. But that's how the names came about. Fat Herbie, this wallet here was that first one I started making. This was the first one those Japanese guys bought. And it's a really unique look. And what I like about this guy the most, I wear a wallet in the back pocket. And I still, like, even this one, the Capone, that's a little bit more like front pockety. Or now we have this one's a 2-shot. Even something like this, I'd still wear in my back pocket just because like I'm used to that. But what's great about the Herbie is it just lays flatter, and I don't know if you wear yours in your back pocket, but you'll probably notice yours is just more comfortable in your back pocket. And that's because of this layout. Most wallets, including many from me, have card holders that are like stacked on top of each other. So when you put 16 cards in this wallet, you're spreading those out over more surface area. So when you close it and sit on it, it still remains quite thin, where other wallets just kind of bulk up. It's more like wearing like a softball in your pocket. So that's what I like about the Herbie. I like how easy it is to get cash in and out of because of this huge bill slot. It's just like so easy. I find the card holders to be really nice to access. So for me, it's like my dream. I think it's a little bit of a turnoff for most people, and that was actually the feedback we got was like, "Hey, that's cool. It seems ridiculous. It's like so big." I was like, "Yeah, you know what? It's pretty big. it's about the size of a passport." So that was the feedback we got, and we said people would say, like, "Hey, can you make a smaller one, a smaller Fat Herbie?" And we're like, "Yeah, but like." You can't really get the same function out of it. And they said, well, what I really like is just the aesthetic. Like they liked this sort of exterior bill slot thing. So we made another wallet called the Tony the Ant, and that's this guy. It's quite a bit smaller than the Fat Herbie here. You can see the size difference. So the Tony the Ant is more of like a little bit larger than a deck of cards. So this one is just a little bit smaller form factor with the same aesthetic, although the card slots here are stacked, unlike on the Herbie. So that was the second. Actually, I don't even know if that was the second one we did. I think the second one we did was the Johnny the Fox because we knew people wanted like a classic.
Oh, the bifold. Yeah.
Yeah, the bifold. So that's like most people when they think of a wallet would think of something like this. So yeah, we just sort of like iterated on our designs, took some feedback. Um, the only thing that hasn't really changed is the Herbie, which is crazy. I mean, we've added, so you can do hidden card slots now on the Herbie. We're gonna start doing something. We've had a lot of people that want no exterior bill slot, so we're gonna do one that we're gonna call the tall Herbie. That the bill slot goes all the way to the top and it's straight across. But yeah, like we spend a lot of time, like a stupid amount of time thinking about something so simple. Like it might not look like a lot of thought, but there's like so much that goes into this that you wouldn't think about. And let me give just like a really small example. And there's maybe 50 of these. This stitch right here that goes across the center, this stitch has to have like a strength to it in a back stitch. So you'll notice on yours, there's probably 3 back stitches, or it might look like 2, but it's really 3, to lock it into place. But if you feel underneath on the inside, that stitch, you should feel it, right? We have to pound down that stitch.
Oh,
I don't know
wow.
if you could,
Yeah.
it should feel pretty smooth.
Yeah.
Actually, the one I'm feeling right now is like not super smooth. But we pound that down because when you close the wallet, you don't really want to see like that poking out, because every little thickness inside of this wallet will press the leather out. And because it's a veg tan leather, it's going to mold to whatever it's conforming around. So like that's a little small little thing that we do. I mean, the other things are like on the, like where the stitch hits the bill slot on the side, we try to hit this thread, if I can get it on camera. This stitch right here needs to hit as close to that pattern piece as possible, because it holds it in place when you do this, right? Like if you were to sort of like pull it apart the whole time, that's a stress point that we don't want to mess with. There was actually a point in time where we thought about double stitching that, but the aesthetic was like really ruined, and it seems pretty strong as is. And there's so many little things that you see something like this and you would say like, okay, whatever. But there's a lot of thought that goes into it, even though it's something so simple, which I think is the fallacy. Like most people think like we have to do a lot of work to make it better. Like sometimes you just do less, and that's like the bass player in me. It's like nobody wants to hear that. Like just do your job. Like chill out. Right, so that's kind of how we do on this, is just kind of make it nice and like simple. But yeah, like so now we have all those wallets. We got Frank the Enforcer, which is a really cool name. Like super badass name. Bugs Moran is kind of a cool name. And then like we have things that I never named a gangster name, like Apple Watch Band doesn't have a name. Like all the non-wallets, I didn't do that, except for the key cases, which have a little bit of a good story. So let's see. I have 2 key cases here. So the first key case we did, this I just kind of ripped this off. This was this shape, and some people call this the key taco. But this one's missing a little screw post. It's supposed to have a little post in the center here. So this key case was inspired actually by a golf like divot tool that swiveled out on this post. And I saw it and I was like, we should put keys on that. So I started making this, and we named this one the Lexington Hotel key case, which if you go back and look at the 90s news, there was a moment in time where they were like unearthing Capone's vault at the Lexington Hotel. And I thought it'd be fun to kind of play off that, like, oh, they found the key for his vault. So that's the Lexington key case. And Geraldo Rivera had like this huge special. They go into the hotel to open the vault. And they're like, oh my God, what's going to be in there? And it's live on TV. And they open it up and there's like nothing in there. It's like total waste of time. So I named it after named it after that. And then like that vault I thought was a cool idea, and I thought it was a cool word. So I used this as the vault key holder. That's sort of a play off that same vault inside the Lexington Hotel. So this one just, holds keys on each side of the screw post and sits in there like a taco. So this is Bugs Moran. This is more like exactly the size of a deck of cards. And I like this one. I kind of hate like selling myself, but like let's just pretend that this wasn't mine. I like this because it's like so perfectly handheld and so good in your front pocket. It's just like perfect front pocket wallet. But what's really cool about this is the larger 2 card slots here If you want to hold some cash, you can actually fit cash folded in half into those larger two. So it's like a good, we notice there's a lot of people that are a bit more minimalist and don't want to carry a ton of stuff, especially right now with the pandemic. Like you're not even allowed to use cash. So some of these more minimalist things like this and the 2-shot, and I think I have a pattern piece of a 1-shot here. Some of the 1-shots people have been gravitating more towards recently. But what's cool is we saw the let's go back to the Tony the Ant here, the one with the smaller fat Herbie. We went back to this and we said, well, what if we just got rid of the bill slot? So we took that away, but then we saw that this was like a little bit wider in the center here. So we shrunk that down to make the size like just right. So that's how we got the Bugs Moran. And my brother started working with me about 4 years ago. And he kept getting people. So he was answering a lot of emails, helping me out because I'm still working at Horween until last year. It's a lot of work. Doing the 2 jobs, but he kept getting requests for like this very traditional type of card holder, and he really wanted to make one. So we actually made one that was a little bit more narrow than this. It was like a little smaller, and I was never fully happy with it because I felt like it was too hard to get cards in and out of. So a little over a year ago, we made it a little bit wider, which now I think it's just about perfect. So this one has, if you can see it, there's 2 card slots in the front here with a larger one in the center, and then we have 1 card slot on the back. So this is another kind of minimalist, more of like a classic style card holder that we call a Frank the Enforcer. And the middle slot here is another one of those. If you want to hold some cash, just fold it in half. It'll fit US dollars. We kind of, and I was talking to my team today about this. We kind of do a poor job at helping out our non-US dollar friends. We have a lot of people that are interested in our products from all around the world. And I've been dropping the ball trying to hook them up. I need to do some more products that are specifically designed to fit some larger yen and pounds and euros. Right now, like the only thing that we have that really does a good job of that is the Herbie. But again, people are kind of turned off by the like larger size of this, just like unconventional. But we do the tall Tony. So we take the same one, a euro, like the tallest euro and the tallest yens stick out just a tiny bit from this thumb notch. So we do one now that goes all the way to the top. And a lot of Japanese people seem to be into that recently. But like that's coming next for me. I'm trying to do more like I hate coins. Like I can't remember the last time I wanted to use a coin, but a lot of the world still uses coins. So I need to get on that and like make a coin pouch. I want to do like 2 versions sort of the Johnny the Fox. I think we need one that has a money clip in a Johnny the Fox. So like maybe there's no bill slot on the outside and there's just like a money clip here with card holders on each side, but taller to fit like larger euros and other paper currency. And then I think we need a larger, like I don't know if you've seen our Jumbo Fox, which is like this one, but with an additional card slot on each side, and it's got an additional bill slot divider. I want to do one of those with one side of cards and then like a coin pouch in the bifold. So there's some stuff like I should be helping people out a little bit better than we're doing. To be honest with you, we've been having such a hard time just like keeping up with the wallets that people have been ordering that it's been hard for me to continue to expand. So we've added over the last year, we've added 3 people to the team full time. And I don't know if we're going to be adding more soon, but it feels like we might have to, like if stuff keeps selling the way it's selling. You know, what our day kind of looks like is I'll show up in the morning and I'll print off all the orders and kind of check them and sign them to thank everybody, because it's like very important for me to be like the direct person that's like overseeing all that and like communicate with you. So we'll sign all those, and then the way we do things that's a little bit different that you might not think of is in fact I pulled these wallets from the state that they're sitting in our shop. So this wallet is not finished. So if you look at the edges of this, it's still like a raw edge. So we've always run this thing from the mentality of like, I don't want to wait for my thing. Like I want it now. So when you order something from us, if it says it's in stock, it's sitting there like this. I need to finish the edges and polish it. So all of our orders we pull in the morning, and then we have like a big stack of stuff that we sand down all the edges and we hand wax and burnish all of them. And then we use this product here, which you're probably familiar with, the Saphir Cordovan cream. And I think I always pronounce this wrong, Saphir. But we polish all the Cordovan with this cream. Some people that have been following us for years might want to hear this, but Nick Horween told me this week that he's going to be getting some Horween Venetian cream in their packaging like soon, which you'll be able to get from me. I think he wants me to sell them all because he just like can't fulfill his orders. But when we get that back, we might experiment and try some Venetian cream on the shell. But I've been really enjoying the Saphir. So we polish them all up and we ship them out and kind of repeat the process every day. I send thank you videos to everybody that orders from the website. I don't know if you got one, but thank you, by the way. I think people have to opt in to like get these videos when they place their order. There's like a button or something. But I really think like what we're doing is super special. So we're making awesome stuff in Chicago, like within like a half-mile radius. That the leather comes right down the street to where I'm at, and we're making it all right there. I want to bring this like thing that Amazon's not going to do. So I'm going to reach out to you and like email you. It's me. It's not like some automated thing. We do have some automation where like if you abandon your cart, it'll say like, hey, we'll help you out. But I try to do things that are like not obtrusive and more helpful. But it's like all real people. And I probably will be regretful of saying this, but maybe not. If you go on my website and there's a little chat button, you chat that goes like right to this laptop right here, which I don't have like always active, but like people are getting the guy like every time. So there's no Amazonification of this. Like it's very much like a personal thing for me. And the whole goal is to share the leather with you, help you make a good choice. Like I have people that ask me questions about what boots they should buy or what do I think about this. And that's like what I live for. I wake up getting excited to do that and to share all this leather. That's why we probably came across each other, is because I started doing these videos basically every day of many of the things that we ship out. And a lot of people tell me they can hear it in my voice of just like how excited I am to see the same stuff over and over. But it really, like the video I put out today of a bunch of private stock stuff, like I was like legitimately excited to talk about, because there's every time it's something new. And a quick tangent is I have given instructions to my team to like make things that excite them. And what Dan and I have been doing over the years is just collecting leather that's like really cool. So I let them loose to say literally anything you want, cut it, make anything you want out of it, put a crazy thread. I don't care. Like whatever you think is awesome. And me doing that is like probably one of the better pieces of direction that I've given, because the things I've been getting back from them are amazing. It's all the private stock stuff that you may or may not have seen on the site, but they're just mind blowing. So we have a really incredible team of people that are way more talented than I am, to be honest with you. Like I'm very lucky to be working with them. But they're just so creative and so talented. We're lucky to have each other. So it's very inspiring place to go to work right now. And I think people are kind of it's surprising when something doesn't sell out right now, which is like bizarre, like for me to even say that. Like we've been in this weird thing where people have been like obsessed with the private stock stuff and they go before I can even advertise it. It's like somebody must be sitting there like refreshing. So it's pretty wild what we've been going through. So I want to do more of that too, like more like really cool limited edition stuff, like stuff, shell Cordovan stuff like I've never seen before. Like I want you to see it with me. We did one of those today. There's a string print marbled cigar shell Cordovan. Like that doesn't exist. Like, so we're trying to do things that don't exist more frequently.
That's awesome.
I don't even remember what your question was, but I went way off.
Oh, I don't either. But that's okay, 'cause that's not the point. Yeah, good stuff. Yeah, I love the leather. Well, you talked about the personal touch. That's a big thing with me. One of my early experiences with you guys when you sold me this, long before you and I met or knew who each other were. And your brother helped me, and I didn't even know. I just thought he was some guy that worked there. You know, now I'm like, oh, it's Phil's brother.
My brother Matt. Yeah,
Yeah,
Matt's
and
great.
yeah. So I asked, hey, could you send me a picture of the fat Herbies you have in stock in this particular makeup? You know, in the all reversed color 8. And I thought to myself, like, I'm probably like, you know, that guy. Like, I'm that annoying guy. And quickly I found out that it wasn't that way at all. He was like more than happy to do that. Like almost like he expected me to ask for something like that. And he was more than happy. He sent me these like really nicely taken pictures, and it was like super helpful. So anyways, that was a great experience. So the personal touch, um, I appreciate it. And I know a ton of other people do that. That's not, and it's because that's not common these days. I think that's one of the big things, right?
It's a lot easier to have an automated robot like tell you like go to
Right.
hell. I don't, but the thing about the leather though is like that specific one that you chose, and some of the marbled stuff. Like here's another. This is a black reverse piece. Like that's unique. There's no other piece of shell looks like that dye splatter there. So I try to write specifically on all the marbled shell and the reverse stuff. Like you got to email me. I want you to have like exactly what you're looking for. And sometimes like it doesn't work out. Like I could just put up another one that was like this insane black reverse Herbie. I put it number 8 of 8, like hoping to hide it a little bit. Of course that one sold first, and now I get a bunch of people that are like, where's that one? And I'm like, sorry. I mean, there's literally like one piece of leather that looks like that, especially on the reverse stuff and the marbled. So you gotta I love when people ask me for photos because it's so much like as a business owner, I want to make you happy. It's so much better for me to like get you the thing and like not surprise you with something different like up ahead of time. Because if I just sent you like whatever reverse color 8 Herbie I had, you would have gotten it and be like, that's cool, but like, whoa, that's so different than the photos. And it's because they're all unique. But yeah, anybody that's listening here, like super encourage you to email Phil at ashlandleather.com. That's me. Or you can hit my brother at info@ashlandleather.com. He's like kind of faster at emails than me right now, but both of us can help you out. And yeah, we do encourage, even for like a regular non-marbled or reverse wallet. I'd love to send you photos. It's kind of, I like taking photos. So it's, for me, like I'll set up the DSLR if I got time and like take a pro shot for you and send it. It's kind of overboard, but it's like part of the fun, right? Like, then that's why I do the YouTube videos. So can I tell you a little story here too about, we were talking about guitars, and in San Diego, there's a guitar maker that made that bass right there called Carvin. And what they used to do they're called Kiesel now. But when I bought that Carvin, Facebook was kind of new, and they started doing this thing where they would post like every guitar that they were sending out, like a picture of it every day. And I remember like how exciting it felt for me, like when I ordered a guitar, to like refresh that page and be like, okay, is my guitar going to be in there? Like it was really exciting to like see my thing that I picked before I got it. So I took that inspiration and started doing that for the wallets. And now I get the same feedback for what I'm doing. Like people really like to see their wallet before they get it. And it's fun to see like everybody's stuff. So that, yeah, I love taking the photos. I love taking the videos. It's time consuming, but like me, I just like creating stuff, and I'm starting to feel like photography and like I'm not great at either the photos or video, but like I think it's very fun to create that in the same way that I think it's fun to create a wallet and to create music. They're all like the same thing in my head, like that same bucket of creative energy. It's like it can all feel that same amount of joy doing each of those. So I just go to work and try to make stuff, and that's literally the only question I'm looking to get an answer for out of people that I hire is I'll ask them like, so what do you like doing? And if they say I want to make stuff, they're hired. Like all I want to do is have people that make stuff around me.
Yeah, I mean, and I think the reason all that personal touch is so important, right, is the personal touch is what we all lost when things started getting sold online. So online's great. It's fantastic because it's super convenient and all the information's right there. But like we used to, or not we, but like our grandparents used to, walk down the street to, Phil, who's making wallets with his buddy Dan and his brother.
Mhm.
And we would like physically go see you and you would explain to us the product and we'd buy it and handle it and shake hands, look each other in the eye, that kind of thing. And on the internet, we lose that. And so it's with this, the resurgence of stuff that you could almost call old world, like whether it's the wallets or the boots, that's half the appeal. I think it's not just the product. It's like that. Plus for a lot of people anyways, you want to feel that connection. And so, not everybody, but
Well,
for me,
I'm honestly surprised because you're right. Like, and especially with leather goods, another reason that I'm doing the videos and stuff is like it's so hard to understand like what you're looking at in a still photo, like because there's so much depth of color and luster on like all this stuff and the smell and the feel. Like you can't experience that online. So I'm legitimately surprised that we sell anything online. Um, I mean, but that's like kind of the way the world's moving towards, right? Like I can show you this here and yeah, like it looks nice. You might be able to see a little bit of the shine. You can see a little bit of the color, but you might also notice like this is a video. So the color is going to change depending on like what angle you look at it. So if I'm taking photos of this product, like you're not going to get an accurate representation remotely close to like what it really is. So as a positive to that is people get my stuff and they're like, wow, it's like way better than I thought. Like I thought it was awesome, but like, oh my God, like it smells so crazy. And like, it's a sensory experience. So you're right. Like the personal touch thing is very important to me. Sometimes I worry, like right now, before we got on the call here, I was doing some of those thank you videos I was talking about. I've got about 800 personal thank you videos to make. And I get sometimes concerned. This is a reason that we don't advertise right now. Like I'm a little worried that like we're going too far, right? Like I think we've become very successful and I don't want to mess it up, right? Like I don't, I'd rather like turn off the website like if we can't make stuff right, so it's been a lot of hours to do those personal touches, which is I'd imagine why most places don't do it because they don't want to do the work where we do everything different, right? Like I put in that work to answer your IMs. I put in the work to answer your emails. I put in that work to like follow up and make sure your stuff got delivered and like you're liking it. So I do all that stuff, but also like we're doing the work that other people aren't going to do in many other ways. So if you take a look at our small batch stuff and our private stock stuff, nobody's doing that. And they're not doing it because it's expensive to sit on like thousands and thousands and thousands and thousands of dollars of leather like we do. But we buy it because we like it and we'll sit on it because it inspires us. And then one day we'll come across it and be like, man, I should make a fat Herbie out of that. And number one, that's like super expensive to do because you sat on the leather forever and you're going to make one. And then I'm going to spend an hour to like take a photo and a video of it and then make a whole product page just to sell one thing. Like nobody's going to do that because it's crazy. And we do do like a lot of that stuff where it's like, it's kind of like the Horween thing, but like in a more modern way where like, they're not going to cut corners to like, just to make something faster and easier. Like sometimes it's got to be hard because it's better, right? Like it's so much cooler to have like just this one badass thing that is like that's it, right? And we're going to do all that work. And I think people are starting to appreciate that. And honestly, like that the sort of private stock small batch stuff that we've done, I think I had to start because of the pandemic. We noticed that some of our like all the stuff we do is expensive and like anybody that's supporting us like we're very thankful for, but like there's this is a $300 wallet that's so expensive, but it's going to last you a long time and it's going to last you the rest of your life because we guarantee you that will, and I'll repair or replace it. So like in the long run it's like a cheap but in the short run that's like a lot of money to drop, right? But we also make wallets that are like $100. Like there's versions of the Johnny the Fox, that really classic design, that are not in cordovan, that are like sometimes we put them on sale, but it's around $100, right? we noticed the market when the pandemic hit, it's, like people weren't really buying $100, $75 wallets. So there it seemed, and this is like a depressing fact, I think. It really feels like there's two worlds that are happening at the same time, where there's people that like would have been in the market for like $75, $100 like nice thing, that like are out of a job and don't have money and they're scared and they're just not going to buy it. So we saw them go away, but like the Cordovan people were like more than ever buying stuff. So the pandemic actually shifted me to focus more on like serving the people that are collectors and like fans. So that's why we're doing more of those like rare colors, limited edition stuff, like crazy makeups, to keep us afloat. And we turns out like it did more than keep, like I was worried that we were gonna like have to lay people off, which is why I started doing that. But it turned out like that move, it seems to be like what we should have been doing the whole time, is just like a unique treasure every time. That's all we do is unique treasures. And now we're selling more than we were before the pandemic. So it's kind of sad too, because like I gotta feel bad for people. Like there has to be millions of people out there right now that like can't eat food. So me talking about somebody buying a $300 wallet, I would really hope that you're donating some money to, food bank, or like helping out somebody directly, because we're very fortunate to be able to have some of these fine pieces of leather. And if you're buying more than one of these wallets, I certainly hope you're going to give one to somebody as a gift or something like that, because we're very spoiled, man. Like I'm sitting behind a couple grand worth of boots. Like if I wasn't giving out money, I'd be hypocritical. So, we should all, if you're even have the power to turn on your computer and watch us right now, we should be thankful for what we have. Like I need a kick in the pants every now and then to realize like the stuff that I'm able to do is we would call it like it's all gravy, right? Like this is all ice cream. This is not the meat and potatoes, right? We should be more aware of that, I think, just as like a people.
Yeah. Well, and I'm thankful that you guys actually take those special cuts, special tannages pieces, crazy looking shell, and you do make it into product and you do pass it on. And you're the guys that work with you, or the ladies, if the ladies, I don't know who they are, they're putting their creativity into it. Because like what happens a lot, like this happens in the boot world, is that the rare shell or the crazy looking stuff, it gets like stockpiled, and it's either special releases that like people are like stabbing each other in the back to get, not really, but they're like fighting for it, or it's stuff you never get to see because only like friends of the people get it. I just think that's super cool that like you're like, no, like anybody can get this stuff. We're gonna make this, we're gonna sell it, and you don't need to like be my best friend to buy it. It's not like that. That's cool.
Well, I mean, as much as I come across as loving leather, like Skip Horween has done some interviews. Maybe you should talk to him too, but like he loves leather. Like that guy is, and on top of that, he's just so knowledgeable, but also like the best storyteller I've ever met. So you might want to talk to Skip, but like it really is, I think, with the family business type of thing that Horween has, and we're only around for a decade here, but we're sort of a family business. I think when you have like the real, like actual people that give a crap about what they're doing, like at the driver seat, you get a different experience. So Skip legitimately wants to share all his crazy ideas with you. Like, and his crazy ideas come out like the marbled shells, or like the tumble shell Cordovan, or like he did the one I released today, the marbled cigar, which is all, like rare in its, like cigar is rare on its own. Then you marble it, which is like nobody's ever seen that, and then he put a texture in it. It's like mad scientist over there, right? So he legitimately goes like, oh my god, wouldn't that be awesome, and does that. So he just wants to share that with the world as much as I appear to be wanting to share it. And I think that's what makes good stuff, right? Like people that are excited about what they're doing. And with the collectors for those rare shell stuff, I mean, they understand like how valuable that is. And, you know, we were talking about it earlier. Not everybody is as thoughtful and considerate as a person like that. It takes a special person to not just go the easy route and be like, all right, what's on the shelf at Target? Like, I don't care. Just give me the $40 or whatever. Like, they don't think about it. And it takes a special person to take a little bit extra time to like type in into Reddit or whatever and Google and say like, what boot should I buy? And like read for a day or a bunch of hours and like think about what they're doing and understand how to choose the right thing. So most people aren't going to do that. And it's a really special person like yourself. I noticed from your videos, like the amount of attention that you're able to give. Like if you can if you can say more than a couple sentences about what you're looking at, that means you put some thought into it. And I don't think I could have done that before I worked at Horween. I would just go like, oh yeah, those are they're dress shoes. It's like, that's all I was caring about. Like I didn't think about anything other than that. They were just something I had to get to go to a wedding or whatever, you know?
Yeah.
So it's a special person that's able to appreciate this stuff. And Skip and all the Horweens say that often is, they wouldn't be there if people wouldn't take the time to think about what they're purchasing. And it does seem to be an ever decreasing amount of people, which is a little sad. Kind of goes back into the like not the globalization of manufacturing and industrialization things. But yeah, there's not a lot of everything is Amazon right now, and it's a commodity. There's not a lot of unique treasures, and it's hard to find them.
I like that one thing you can do with wallets, like for me as a boot guy, right? Like I started out as a boot guy before even like raw denim and wallets and everything, is, I might not be able to afford a, $1,200-$1,400 pair of shell cordovan boots. Honestly, I'd be afraid to often because I'm just like, what if I don't like that shell? But
Yeah,
with your wallets, it's opened a door for me to be able to like experience some of that in like a small way, especially as you say so well on your videos all the time, like something like the Fat Herbie that has such large surface area, and you can really get a feel for what that leather is doing, like what colors are at play, what the depth of color is, as opposed to something smaller. Yeah, I can enjoy something like that. I could probably never enjoy otherwise.
you know, it's funny. I realized recently, because I started like you as like a boot fan, right? Like I just love, it's like so awesome, and you get to wear it and like kick them around and stuff. I'm starting to realize that like leather is almost the perfect material for a wallet, because it develops that all that patina and luster just from being polished in your pocket. Where like a boot, like you'll have to polish this yourself, but you can do it. It's just almost like it's automatic, like with a wallet like this. I don't know. That's kind of how I'm feeling about it recently, but I think that's just from a pure like aging perspective. But you're talking about boots. So I was, I actually, I'll tell you this, I didn't like them for a while. Like they were, I put a little bit of work into it, but I really like to beat up my stuff and like not do anything and not polish it. So there's two things I didn't like about these, and I imagine that most people that have had Vibergs have the similar experience. They're just so uncomfortable out of the box for like a while, and they were really tough and hurting, pinching me all over. And that's totally different now. Like they're probably these and the diesel boots. I probably regret saying this. I think the diesel boots are getting a little less comfortable now. I think I'm getting too much room in my toe box, where this is sort of the opposite now. I love diesel boots. I think they're super comfortable. These are getting more and more comfortable, which is not the same for everything I've owned. So I didn't like that, but also like natural shell, it was so light. Like it's hard to pull it off. So I honestly, all I did with this was put some water on it and brushed it, and it made it this like nice golden sort of reddish orangey color now. So yeah, like and the reason I bring this up is this is the first pair of shell footwear that I've ever had, and I worked with it, and I do work with it like every day. Um, it's expensive, like it's really expensive. But the thing about these and all the other pairs of boots and shoes behind me is you can basically wear them forever, especially on the Cordovan. So if you do that calculation we were talking about earlier, it's like dollars per like wearing, it's free compared to some other stuff. So yeah, you're going to drop $1,000, but these things will last for till your kids are your age, you know? And in fact, I have these, so I got these indie boots, and these are like, I wore these like every day at the tannery for so many years. They're disgusting.
Is that the 405, the calf leather?
Yeah, they call it calf. It's not. Yeah, it's a leather from Horween called Austin, and this is actually like an older. They like have changed it, and I don't know how much they want that to get out here, but it's. I think at one point in time it was actual calf, and it wasn't this, and now it looks even different than this one. But this is so old. This is probably like 13 years old. And the point of this, and also I might need your guidance on some laces. I hate these laces, and I haven't worn these in a long time. But these are super old and they're still fine. I put a day night sole on them. So you could just like resole these for I think the guy said you could do like 5 resolings on this. But these soles have been on here for a while and they're like pretty new. So, and even the Vibergs here, let's get a sense. Like I've been wearing these every other day for over a year, and there's so much more wear that could happen on this. So like we're talking about stuff that's going to last many years, and then you just pop a new sole on and you do that 5 times before it's dead. It's, I don't know, it's pretty special to be able to have something like this Viberg or one of my wallets that it not only does it get not only is it like awesome to look at, but like it gets better the more you have it. Like I've been thinking about that a lot, is like there's not much stuff in the world that you buy that actually like go this way instead of get worse. Like I sometimes make the analogy of like it's like a wine that you can drink every day. And I think that's true. Like I can't think of anything else that gets better the more you wear it. And I think that's part of what makes this material special. So I totally got us off topic again. But
I could talk about this stuff all day. I love it. I love it.
yeah, man. Well, hey, by the way, you're gonna have to I'll probably we'll get rid of COVID, and then when you're coming to Chicago, we'll walk around the tannery. We should probably film that too. Because that's the other thing I'm trying to do is like there's this sort of like one of your questions that you gave me a list of questions before this, and I asked you for that so I could prepare some of these examples and stuff. But one of the questions you had was like, why does Skip and Nick not show up on camera anymore? Or like, are they shrouding in secrets and stuff? It's not really the case. So Horween, they have this more modest approach where they really don't want to be the star of the show. They want their brands that they work with to be the stars, and they want to be the bass player, right? Like they want to kind of be there to be like, yeah, we did our job, but like that's it. Like we're not the star here. Like it's Alan Edmonds, it's Alden, it's Wilson, it's Viberg. You know, like they're the stars here. Pay attention to them. Like we're just here to do a job. So it's a really interesting, like, how do I describe it? It's kind of like a big dick move where they're just like, yeah, whatever. Like, yeah, we're just doing what we do. You like it? Cool. If you don't like it, all right, whatever. Like it's interesting. And I like that vibe. Like no weird ego play and just kind of being there, bass player style.
Yeah, bass player style. Very, very cool. So you talk a lot on your channel about different types of leather, different thicknesses of leather, different cuts, or like you cut it out of a certain place in the hide, or even a certain place on the shell itself. So a lot goes into this, right? So with the shell in particular, like what makes a good shell for a wallet? Like when you're looking at it, what makes a good one and what makes a bad one?
Yeah, and I brought a reject here to show you.
Perfect.
Right? So that's the thing, is like, you see a customer's from Horween or a customer of Ashland is going to see like good stuff. Like, you're never going to see the bad stuff, really. So take a look here. That is a crack in the backside of the leather, which it kind of translates a little bit to the front. And this black color is probably not going to translate very well, but there's an obvious crack. So there are like fundamental things, like we're talking about earlier, like being the bass player. Like, if you don't have that bass player, you're going to miss it. There's fundamental things in the tanning process that if they don't do right, like I just cracked it. I don't know if you heard that.
Yeah,
right here.
you did.
Like, it just straight up cracks. Yeah, and then you get that.
It's like a car bashing, but it's leather.
So there's times in the tanning process that if you don't run a procedure correctly, if particular, oh geez, it's cracking so much. It's just like shattering here. But if they don't cure this right or run the right chemicals and things like that, the leather doesn't tan right, and it just turns into potato chip, and that's why you're getting these cracking. There's other things that happen, like if they accidentally turn the hot water on instead of the cold water. Any vegetable tan leather you can actually cook, and you can also get looks like it turns into a potato chip. And this is like super. I wonder how well it's going to show. It's like super cracked.
Oh yeah.
So you can cook the leather too. You cannot tan it properly. Those are like fundamental of the fundamentals. Like, you got to tan it right. And then there's other things like when Skip would teach me how to observe a piece of leather, he gave me this this technique, and he didn't even have a name for it. Basically, you like take your hand and you sort of like just grab the leather like this, and you can kind of go like this. And he said this is the ultimate test for any leather, because you get so many different characteristics that you're observing at once. Number one, if you take your fingers like this and sort of like pincer it down the side, you can feel if the thickness of the leather is even. So is it split out too thin in one section? Is it too thick in another? But we also get a sense of the temper. Like, is it soft? Is it firm? Like, does it feel like cardboard, or does it drape over and like flop like that? Like, which is pretty round. And then you also get a sense of the feel, like the surface feel. Like, if I were to just touch it gently on the surface, is it smooth? Is it sticky? Is it raspy? Is it suede? And is that it? That's probably about everything that you get from this right here. But that's not one of the things. Those are sort of like also fundamentals. So I want to have that. Like, I want to have a nice roundness. I want to have the, like, when I think of shell cordovan, like perfectly smooth feel. Like, I shouldn't feel any raspiness, but also when I look at it, it should look like a mirror. Like, it should be super shiny. This one's actually a bit duller than most shells, which you probably won't be able to see. It still looks like it's bright and shiny there, but this one's pretty dull. You want a piece of shell to look like glass, or like a mirror. It should be very light reflective, even on a black leather. And then the other things we look for, in particular for like making a wallet, is it depends on the wallet style. So like on a Johnny the Fox here, on the inside of this wallet, we have so many layers of leather that it still has a thin wallet here. Like, you see this, we're talking about like, what is that? 7 layers times 2 when you fold it in half. So if you were to use this thickness of leather and even just fold it in half like once, like that's pretty thick, right? So there's certain designs that we want to pick specifically thin pieces of leather to cut the insides of a Johnny the Fox for in specific. So thickness matters a lot. And we remember from earlier, we don't like to thin down any leather because we just totally ruin the strength of the leather and it rips. And that's not always possible in every piece of shell. Not every shell is going to have a thickness that's appropriate for a Johnny the Fox, for example. So thickness is really important for us. And it's a big challenge because we have a lot of people that want like all natural shell Johnny the Fox, and that's like a rare color, and we're talking about something that like I barely get any like even on the popular colors like black. There's just so few shells that have a little section like right here that's thin enough to cut one card slot. I just can't do it on a rare shell. So we're trying to work with Horween to be able to and they don't want to do the extra work. Like, of course, it's like more work for them to sort for thin pieces, but we're going to try to ask them to make us thin pieces of shell so we can make more wallets that people are asking for. But that's pretty much it. Like when I think of shell, I want a bright, shiny luster. I want a really nice round feel. And then I need to make the thickness towards whatever style I'm making. If I was going to make a boot, I would take a little bit of extra time to like test like we were doing for that cracking and kind of flex it around to see like, all right, is there any like weird stuff going on? Are there any scars that I can't see here that are going to open up? Like this is cracking all over. Ugh. So it's like very fundamental stuff, and then you want like the very specific chord and things like the luster and the smoothness. So hopefully that answers your question.
Yeah. Yeah.
Ugh, look at all this cracking though. It's like,
oh, that's insane. Yeah. But this is actually really cool because I've never seen shell crack, right? Because the stuff you buy is like the good stuff. So,
well, Horween wouldn't sell it. Like, he'll sell this to me, and he trusts me to not like put crap out into the world. So I would just like not cut that. But I know how to like test this for more cracking. So like if I can make something out of it, which I don't think we'll be able to use this for anything, I would make something out of it. But this is kind of like an ugly shell all around. So sometimes we'll use something like this to like test out like if our clicker press is set right, like we'll test out a little piece of scrap, or we'll test out like our stamping machines on this, things like that. There's always a use for like little bits of scrap.
Doormat.
A doormat?
Yeah, a doormat or something.
Yeah, I actually took one of these. So I have my guitar pick holder here with a top in it. But I cut this into a valet tray because it has this like huge hole in the side that you might not be able to see right here.
Oh yeah.
So I don't know, like I'll do stuff for me to use because like I don't care.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So your favorite shell color you say is amaretto these days? Why is that? What is it about amaretto that just turns you on?
You know what, man? I don't have amaretto with me. I wish I did. It kind of reminds me of this color a little bit. It's got the amaretto along with other shell colors have this like very dynamic like color range to them that sort of changes depending on what direction you look at it. So if you were to spin it around like this and it was a piece of shell, you would notice the color change. And if you just sort of like tilt it up and down, it's this like incredible parlor trick of the directionality of the shell. There's microscopic fibers that are pointing one direction, similar to a suede. Like I have this suede here. I don't have much nap on here, but like this is a suede. And if you were to nap it one direction, sometimes you'll see like the color get lighter and the other direction goes darker. You get that same sort of effect on the shell itself. And that's what's happening when you spin it around is you're seeing the light hit those fibers at a different angle. So the amaretto shell just has this like incredible color range from like a vivid sort of like orangey golden yellow color, and then it sort of shifts to like a medium brown with a red in it, and tilting it looks really cool. It's very interesting as if somebody taking photos of it. It's almost like I can never capture how it looks because it's always like elusive. Like there's something about that color that is not one color at one time. Like even a subtle shift, it like changes. So it's like always kind of changing color. It's bizarre, but I like that. So sort of orangey colors, like this is English tan Dublin. I really like just the color by itself, but on that amaretto shell, it's just incredible. And for a bunch of years, before the amaretto existed, I really liked color 4 a lot. That was my favorite for about a decade. And that's more of like a medium brown. And on that note, I don't know if you listen to Stitch Down Shoecast, but
Totally. Totally.
I just started picking that up, and Brett Klein from Alden was on there this week, and I've been friendly with Brett for a little bit, and I caught something on there that he was doing, and I didn't know he was doing, but he was sun fading his Color 8 shell. We actually had faded, and I should show you, I'll send you a photo next week or something. But we've been fading some Color 8 in our window at the shop since like June. It looks like a caramel color 4 now. It's like very light. But that fading of the sun fading that Brett describes in Stitch Down is it works. Anyways, like I actually think that faded Color 8 is probably my second favorite now. I've only really seen one in person now. But it's pretty sweet. And if anybody's going to try that, I'm a little worried about our result because we were talking about the fundamentals of like what makes leather good. That sun faded one, I think from being exposed to so much heat for so many days, like it's almost cooked it a little bit. You want to be careful to not have the temperature get about over like 130, 135 degrees Fahrenheit on any veg, because it will literally turn that leather, any veg leather, into a potato chip. So I think we cooked it a little bit. It feels a little boardy. It feels a little like cardboard. I'm gonna try to nourish it a bit with Tanner's blend. I actually brought some with Tanner's blend. I'm gonna try to nourish it with this a little bit because it feels very dry and very firm. And I think this might help to lubricate it a bit. But that sun fading really works. I would just be careful with heat, especially on the shells for anybody that's gonna try it.
Yeah, that's a good call because you don't want to ruin it, right? You want it to make it look better, but you don't want to totally destroy especially if it's boots. Oh my goodness, can't imagine.
Well, and 130 degrees doesn't seem achievable, but like I think it gets pretty hot when you're like blasting sun on it directly. Like I think we'd be surprised like how hot something can get.
No, you're
Like,
totally right. So when I was an electrician, we used to have this laser heat gun. So you'd point the laser at whatever surface and it would tell you the temperature. And people have this misconception when they see the weather report, it'll say like 90 degrees, but that's just the ambient temperature, right? That's the temperature of the
air,
average temperature of the air.
mm-hmm.
And if you shot like on a hot day, you take that gun and shot your skin with it, the surface of your skin's 115. You shoot the black top, it's like 130 or 40. The hood of a black car, it's like 150, 160 degrees on a hot day. So yeah, I would not be surprised if the shell, like in the middle of summer, is the surface of that shell might be getting to like 130 degrees easy. Yeah.
Yeah, I think Amir came into work one day. He's like, Phil, what do you think about sun fading some shell? It's like, yeah, man, go for it. Like, I'm all about like, let's try it. So he's like, can I get a reject and try it? It's like, yeah, dude. So he like put it up in the window, and this week he's like, oh, I forgot about my shell. He pulled it out, and it's like so different. But it's very like, if somebody tries it and it starts to feel like a hard cardboard, like you probably went a little far. So you just gotta be I was surprised that Brett is telling people to try that. Just because like you can ruin a really nice pair of shoes pretty easily, I think.
Yeah, you got to be careful the time of year, right? There's that UV factor, and it has to do with where the angle of the sun and all that. Like it probably fades better in the summer, but that might be also the time of year that it's like most detrimental to the shell. Maybe fall would be better. I don't know.
Yeah, good point. I don't know. It's definitely cool. I'm like want to give that caveat because I don't want you coming to me saying like buy me new Aldens or whatever.
Oh my goodness.
It works though, man. It looks cool. And I'll send you a photo too. It's really neat. Maybe I should do a YouTube video on it. It's pretty cool.
Yeah. Okay. So I know you're biased toward Horween, and that makes sense. And probably some of it's objective, right? Because a lot of people say Horween's shell is the best in the world. There's a lot of people that say that. In your opinion, why do you feel that way, and why do some of these people feel that way? What's so good about Horween's shell?
Yeah, you're right with that. I can give my opinion based on the caveat that you should know that I'm so biased, and my experience is mostly in Horween stuff, and I love it. So, saying that, I did a video on YouTube earlier this year called Leather Appreciation 101.
Good one.
And in that video, I have um, purchased shells from all over the world. And I did a blind test with my newest coworker at the time, Amir. He just started working like that week, and I said this would be perfect time to like teach this person about some leather and like let's talk about this and capture it on video. So I had all the different cordovan from around the world that I'm aware of, and I think there were like 8 different tanneries we had from, and I wasn't interested in like taking a poop on any of them. Like I'm not interested in talking trash, but I thought it would be interesting to just say what we observed and talk about it. And I thought that was a good way to do it. So the difference that you see is kind of like that sun bleached feeling that I get from the shell that we faded in the window. The non-Horween stuff has this very rigid. Some of them are softer, but the ones that were worst were like quite boardy. They're very. It's like very firm, and the very worst ones were very firm. Like you couldn't even grab your hand around it. That's how firm they were. But they were also very finished. It's like why even make leather at that point? Like you're putting paint straight on it and like it just looks like paint. Like why? Right? Like um to me it kind of doesn't make sense to use a horse butt and just like cover it in finish. You'll never see Horween do that. Um although maybe I take it back. This is we'll get to this, but this is a work shoe butt. It's a work shoe chrome excel made of a horse butt. It looks like this. It's huge. So that's a different topic. We'll get to that. But the non-Horween stuff is like super painted, super firm. Um and then the break on them were really bad. Like you can see the finish starting to separate off from the leather itself. And there's no way you'll be able to see it on this camera, but it doesn't do that on the Horween stuff. It just never creases. And that's because there's nothing to separate on here, where you're seeing the finish separate from a lot of the non-Horween stuff. And then the other big thing is like the look of this is subjective, right? But like for me, the look of the Horween stuff is just like much more natural, but it just looks real, where some of the non-Horween stuff kind of looks fake, you know? So really at the end of the day, I think the biggest difference is in the feel. The Horween is like super rich and it looks very natural. Where almost all there's some that are pretty nice in terms of feel, but they didn't look as natural. But most of them are just like really firm and really kind of plasticky is what I observe, or painted. They look very finished.
And then another question, leather related, would be just because Chrome XL is such a popular leather in the industry, like you personally, what do you love about Chrome XL? Because everyone gives their different reasons, but what do you like about it?
Yeah. I like the look of Chrome XL an awful lot. I think it's very specific. Like, and as much as I talk about like how much I love grain character, like this Dublin is super grainy. That's just like one thing. So you can like grainy and like rugged, but you can also like this, which is like already awesome. I'm just like messing with this in my hand. Like it's just super rich, a really nice depth of color, that classic pull-up look, but it has a subtle sheen. It's not like in your face as the shell is. It's just like a little bit more cool, right? It's just kind of like it's kind of there, like the bass player. To keep coming back to that, it's kind of like a bass player, man. But no, it's subtle and not in your face. Where you could make this bright as shit. Like you could make it super bright and put a really bright top coat on it, but it would look fake. So the Horween does this really good balance of like making it look awesome and not fake. And that's what I like about the Chrome XL. I think even more than that is I don't know if it's coincidence, but it seems like just looking at all the shoes I have, like my most comfortable stuff is Chrome XL. And I think that's there's two things that the air drying we talked about earlier does for you is because it's air dried, it does have a little bit of stretch to it. which for most manufacturers is like a big problem. It's like super hard to work with something that stretches a lot, and inconsistently so. So like I cut this one from like a perfect spot, like a tight section on the backbone of the hide, and I cut this one from the belly, and you can see it's like a little bit more. Maybe you can't see this camera. It's got a little bit more like delamination that we were talking about, that little bit of looseness. I don't know if you can see it, but it's starting to pebble up and delaminate. The grain's starting to separate and get those like piping look. So it's hard to work with, but the air drying allows it to stretch a little bit, and it tends to stretch more in the bellies, which is why you get that looseness. And I think because it's a little bit more stretchy, when you wear it as a boot or a shoe, it forms around your foot much better. So they're super comfortable for that reason. The other thing that the air drying does is, because you're not maximizing the yield and stretching it out as it dries, you're letting it air dry and like kind of collect itself. You tend to get a better break. So where the leather creases like that, it tends to be much tighter on Chrome Excel. Now there's a caveat here too, because I have like a bunch of Chrome Excel stuff here. Here. So this is an Alden all weather walker, and like the break on this piece of Chrome Excel is very good. Like that's super tight. I have a shoe tree in it right now, but like let's flex it a little bit. So you can see it's like a very tight break right there. Now that's brown Chrome Excel from Alden. And now I have some loose Chrome Excel here that I don't like. This is a Clark's Desert boot, also in Chrome Excel. This is the Color 8 Chrome Excel. This is like one of the loosest pieces of Chrome Excel that I've seen. See how pipey it is there? Now, the price on this was like $80, and the Aldens are like a few hundred, right? So the price comes in for this leather stuff because Clark's is going to cut everything they can out of the hide they get, where Alden is going to be a little bit more judicious on their cutting. You have to have an understanding of the leather itself to know how to check for looseness and know like where you're going to find it, to be aware that it could happen and then check for it. So I think Alden has enough experience to know where to cut and when to cut. Grant Stone does a really good job cutting. Like here's my Grant Stone diesel boots that I love, and like the break on that is really good. I'm honestly surprised that the knowledge of this translated across the Pacific, because I don't see this, which is a testament to Wyatt and Grant Stone. Like they know, like that's a big deal. Like those other Clarks were made in Vietnam, I believe. So like there's this mentality from some factories where it's just like, hey, cut it, sew it, get it out the door. And then it seems like Grant Stone, Alden, Viberg, there's other places that have a little bit more understanding and patience to do it the right way, to avoid some of that looseness. So that's like some of the negatives of Chrome Excel, but it's super comfortable. I like the break on it. Having said that, like you could get a crappy pair. In my opinion and my suggestion to people, like if you get a loose pair like these Clarks, that's like super gross looking. It's like super pebbly. My suggestion would be to contact them and say like, hey, I noticed this like weird pebbling happening on the toe. Is this something that is normal for you, or should I be worried about this? And see what they say. And if they tell you like, yeah, that's fine, see you later, then like probably shouldn't buy that again. But if they say like, hey, like I appreciate you bringing this to me because sometimes that sneaks past us. So sorry, let me send you another pair. Like I would buy Clarks again all day. So those Clarks were irregulars. So I don't think they wanted that. But I bought those on a discount at like some website, and they're super comfortable. I wore those in the ocean, actually in Santa Cruz. They're full of sand and stuff. They're awesome, man. So like, that's the other thing is like, you kind of nitpick it a little bit. But at the end of the day, like you want something that's not super loose, but you can still enjoy it. Like I do. Like I don't really care. I just kind of want to wear my stuff and beat them up. But Chrome Excel, super comfortable, great look, really natural character. Typically a tight break. Your mileage may vary, depends on the maker. And they're too far away. But those boat shoes, there's two boat shoes in the end of the line there. One's Rancourt and one's Oak Street right there. Those Oak Streets are, I put those through the ringer like so much. I've never seen stitching come out of any of my shoes. Those, like, the hand stitching is coming out and the machine stitching on it. It's crazy. I'll show you because it's so. I've like wore these. These are so comfortable. These are Brown Chrome Excel Trail Oxfords from Oak Street, and I think this is like one of the first runs that they ever did. They actually used to have this like leather. They would glue a leather piece to the bottom, which they stopped doing because they didn't know that Chrome Excel was non-cementable, like glue doesn't stick to it. So they stopped putting the leather Chrome Excel piece down here. But man, like look how much I wore out these soles. This thing is like gone. And I've never seen this. I was noticing this just now when I was brushing them. This hand stitch right here has finally popped. I've had these for probably 12 years. And the back here, like I step on the back like this and like slide them on, and this stitch has finally started to pop. But man, like these are probably the most comfortable shoes I've ever had from Oak Street. So these, I like the Roy boots in Chrome Excel. I've got the Indy boots in Chrome Excel. 1,000-mile boots in Chrome Excel were comfortable for a bit. I didn't really like the sole after a while on the 1,000-mile boots. I thought it was just a little too thin. Like at first I liked it, and then it got like a little too soft, and like I could feel the ground too much. But that's probably not to do with the Chrome Excel. The Grant Stones in Chrome Excel are like crazy comfortable. I think they may be like stretching a little too much for me. I mean, they're still comfortable, but I don't know what's going on. It's getting like bigger somehow. But I love these. So I don't know what it is about Chrome Excel. It just seems like most of the stuff I have in Chrome Excel happen to be my most comfortable pairs. Should we go into negatives of Chrome Excel? Negative of Chrome Excel is heavy. Like even on one of those aero jackets, man, like you can't wear that around just because it's like so dense and heavy. But the other thing that I kind of don't like about Chrome Excel is like it scratches pretty easily. So like let's see if I can demo that. It's like, so I'm removing finish by doing that. But the good news is it tends to like fill itself back in pretty easily. But you will kind of see like essence of scratch a lot. So I've gotten into debates with people. Like there was some guy on YouTube, you should look it up. Its title is like so clickbaity for me. It's like Chrome Excel is overrated. And I'm like, I better check this. I better check this out. And like, I really liked seeing his point because like he made some really good points, and it made me realize more and more that's just like total subjectivity and opinion. But yeah, it does have some downsides. Like if you need it to look like super dressy, it's probably not the best dressy look. But to me, it's like the ultimate casual kind of kick around, beat around, wear it in like don't care leather. Super comfortable.
This is totally like a boot guy question, right? Probably nobody else in the world would ever ask this, but so making wallets, why shell and not horse butt?
So I brought this because I think this is what you mean by horse butt. But what does horse butt mean to you?
Yeah, I mean, so horse butt, like for a boot guy, would just basically be like it's right there where the shell is, but you may or may not have the shell in it.
And so only a couple people do that, right?
Yeah, like the most common would definitely be Viberg. There's a couple others that do it. And the reason boot guys like it is usually it has a lot of striations in it and stuff like that.
Oh, yeah. So that would be the only, honestly, that's the only reason. I think it's a little like too firm. It's super like this is some of it. And this is the full thing, right? So this is the full hindquarter of a horse. So in my left hand, that's like a whole butt cheek right here. And then you can see like the center of the animal there where the mane would go up the top. And then this butt cheek is like kind of has like a bite out of it. But this would be the other one. So inside of here, and I don't know if you'll be able to see this, but you can actually see a little bit of the shell right there. It's probably hard to see on a webcam.
I can't really see it, but
I'll make a better like Ashland video of this one, but it's smoother down here and more fibrous up here. And this is what you were talking about, where like some of it's shell and some of it's not. This is the shape that all shell cordovan is tanned in the pits. So they'll dunk this whole thing in a vat for 2 months and tan it with tree barks, and they pull it out, and you have to start separate the shell parts from the non-shell when you're going to make cordovan. When they do the chrome excel, they'll just tan it into chrome excel at that point and leave the whole strip on there. But usually when you trim this off, it looks like a mustache trimmed from there and up to the corner. And I brought him one of those mustaches. So this is the part above the shell. So where my forehead will be here is the waist. The waist of the animal is up there, and then the sides, and then where my chest is would be the one horse butt here and one horse butt here. That's where the shells go, and that's what you're seeing on this. So here's the same exact diagram here, just bigger. Right? So there's a section here that is not shell. So like they point out, it's grainier and more character than the shell cordovan because it's technically not shell. Like they're actually using the grain side here, and it's more like chrome excel than it is shell cordovan. So really all they're doing is tanning the horse butt into chrome excel instead of shaving it down and finishing it for shell. And they actually will finish for the shell on the flesh side, where the horse butt stuff, they're probably using it for the grain side, which is why you're seeing more grain and more character. This one does have some of those striations I think you were talking about. Ugh, I can see them. They're super subtle, like little like wrinkles.
Oh, totally. Yeah, I believe you. I can't see them, but I believe you.
They're super hard to see, especially on black on a webcam.
Oh yeah.
But yeah, I don't honestly like. I feel people are gonna hate me, but I feel like that's a little bit of a waste. Like I would rather just make that into shell. Personally, it's different though, right?
Totally. You probably thought of this before, but just the other day, the irony of the fact that like this came from the horse's butt cheek, and I wear it right there on my butt cheek.
Yeah.
I'm like, I guess this is where it's meant to be, you know?
No better place.
Yeah. So I usually end with like a special question that's a little more heartfelt. But what I want to do instead with you is actually ask you to tell a certain story. So you told this story, and I believe it was that live stream, like right when coronavirus hit, and you pulled out your bass and the beer, and you're having like this really emotional moment. Like you told this story about like the rental truck.
Oh yeah.
And how that changed your perspective forever. So could you tell that for us and like what that meant to you and how that changed you?
I used that line today, and I'll send you a screenshot if you don't believe me. I told somebody today, like I don't rip people off. So that's the story I'm about to tell. Way before Ashland started and had this separate company, I was just working at Horween, and I was going to school, and it was pretty difficult to get by, like going to school full time, working full time, like just starting off. So I didn't have a lot of money, and I was living with 3 other guys, and we were moving from one place to another. And my task for that move was to facilitate getting a moving truck. So I found a truck company that I wasn't familiar with. It wasn't like a national brand. And if you're in Chicago, they're called Elite Truck Rental. And I can't suggest them enough. I've used them many times now and since then, but this was the first time I was there. So I go to Elite Truck Rental, and we need to rent a big truck to move like 3 dudes stuff. So I picked out the truck. I forget how big it was. And we were walking around, and we're supposed to go through that inspection part when you rent a car or a truck or anything, where you guys walk together, you have a little clipboard, and you write down all the possible things that are pre-existing on the car. And for me, this was really significant because I couldn't afford to like repair this truck. I didn't have any money. So I was walking around with a guy, and every little thing I saw, I'd say, hey, you got a little dent right there. And he would, he'd write it down, and I go, hey, there's a, it's a scratch. I mean, it's a moving truck. Like, it's getting like so messed up. So there's scratches and dings all over, and I'm pointing them all out. And the guy says, hey, I'm going to interrupt you really quick. We can continue to do this and go through all these little issues, but I want you to know, we're not going to rip you off. So any of these things that you see, we just don't rip people off. And the way that the way that he was genuine with me, I could tell he was being real. It really stuck with me. And that way I felt of being respected enough to like feel comfortable and like not be taken advantage of. That's the way I want, like you, David, and everybody else that purchases something from me. That's the way I want you to feel. So if you pick up a wallet from me and you're kind of bummed out about something, I want you to tell me, because I don't want you to feel like, I don't want to rip you off. Like, I want you to be super happy with whatever you get. And on top of that, like, we guarantee all this stuff forever. So if you have an issue, like, I'm just going to give you another one if I can't fix it, or I'm just going to fix it for free. So that's the type of feeling I want to give back to people, because I know it. I don't think a lot of that kind of trust like really exists right now. So it was interesting today. I had a guy say, hey, do you have any, I wonder if he watches. It'd be funny for him to hear me say the story. But I get a message on this laptop, because I get all the IMs. Hey, do you have any cigar shell Cordovan wallets? No, but I do have one irregular. Okay, what's wrong with the irregular? I said, well, it's got like a little ding in it. It's barely noticeable, but I can't sell it for full price. Here's a photo. And he said, was this used and returned? And then before I could respond, he said, don't lie to me. And I said, what makes you think that I would lie to you? Like, I don't rip people off. So I got to use the line again today.
That's awesome.
And he didn't buy it. He didn't buy it anyway. I'm sure somebody's going to screw me over someday or regret being the nice guy. But it's honestly though, like, we had somebody come paint our house, like our main floor, a week ago. And this guy was so kind, like the nicest. Like, he wasn't the owner. He was like a guy that works for a boss that has another boss. And after the project was done, I just told him, I was like, like, I want to, and I complimented him to his boss. I said, I wanted you to know, like, the way that you treated me was like awesome. Like, you couldn't have been nicer, more respectful. The work you did was great. Like, you made me feel very comfortable to have you in my house, like when I wasn't here, and you did a great job. I told him that. He's like, it's interesting you said that, because like the way that he was talking to me, he said the way that you treated me was very different than most people. And I said, what are you talking? Like, I didn't really do anything. Well, he's like, you were just like very kind and accommodating. Most people aren't like that. And like, I think one of the examples was like the first day they came by, we were going over and showing everything to work on. And he said, well, we're going to have to cover up these things. Would you like us to like uncover your furniture when we leave for the day? And I said to him, like, whatever's going to make your life easier and your job easier, just do that. I don't need to like sit on my couch for a couple of days. It's fine. So I think like little things like consideration for other people seem like he never gets that experience. And that's kind of a bummer. But I'd rather be part of like the solution to that. Just little things. Like, it's not hard just to be a little bit more thoughtful. And I'm probably coming across like a total sissy here, but it works, man. Just being nice to people, they do a better job too. And that's how I treat my team. Everybody that works with me, I have some work history that I didn't enjoy, and I learned from that. So like all those things that I didn't like, we don't do anymore. Like, hey, guess what? Show up whenever you want. Like, turns out when people are given a little bit like treated like an adult, like they want to be at work and they want to do a good job. And it's like that for everything. So sometimes being like the guy in charge, like owning a company and like having people that watch your YouTube channel, like sometimes it's really easy to get this like big head, and I need to be like knocked back down into place. Because I think I see it happen to a lot of people where they like get this inflated ego thing and they're not thinking the right way. It's not about it's not about you really. It's like about other people and experiencing stuff. So I don't know. It's like so not leather chat, but really strongly feel like if I can expend or if I can explain that and how it's worked for me, like I really wish like more people would be kind of nice to each other.
What you make, it represents who you are, you know? So it may not be technically leather chat, but another way it is, because I firmly believe that when someone creates something, it's like an extension of who they are. It's like an outpouring of their very own beliefs in their heart and their soul. And if there's nothing good in there, then usually nothing good comes out and you get a crappy wallet or crappy boots. But then if there's something good in there, like inevitably, I mean, there'll be mistakes and stuff. It's not like, you know, but inevitably something good comes out. So that's exactly what I see with Ashland, you know.
No, thanks, man.
Yeah, totally.
Hey, I want to ask you a sideball question before we wrap it up.
Yeah.
I've been selling this Tanner's blend for a while. I sent you one.
Yes,
Did you try this on anything?
I did actually.
Really? What did you do?
So I did two things. One, I just took, like you said, just like a pea-sized amount, and I kind of worked it in onto the inside of this here. Because it's been, let's see, February. So it's been about 10 months. And, you know, this rubs, the two sides rub together. So I was trying to get just a little bit of health back into it, a little life back into it, a little bit of sheen. And so I did that. And then I experimented on my Dublin boots, just like on the side of one of the quarters.
Yeah.
I just took a little bit and worked it in. Yeah. So
what did you think about the result on the, for me on the Dublin, it might darken a little too much. What did you think?
So it didn't in my experience because, well, I think one, I didn't over apply. So that's usually with anything, like that's the real common mistake, right? Is people overuse their conditioner, or whatever it is. So I didn't use too much. And then I think the Dublin's just waxy enough. It soaks it in. Like when I went back later, it was like, it was gone. Like that's like, it didn't evaporate. It's like, it's soaked into the leather. But I think that wax has this like ability to repel a certain amount. Like
interesting.
Something like that.
How do you feel like the result was for the look?
So that's the nice thing about it, I think, is the way you say it all the time is like it kind of brings it back to life, kind of breathes life back into it.
Yeah, that's
probably the best description, to be honest.
Really? Okay. I'm interrupting you because I've never done it on. I don't have any Dublin boots, and I have a cognitive dissonance because it seems to function a little bit better on like Chrome Excel for some reason, like a little bit more rich stuff or like darker. But I'd be really curious to see how it worked on your Dublin. I haven't experienced that before.
Yeah, honestly, it's subtle. So like if it's something somebody wants to use, kind of like Venetian shoe cream, where they're expecting it to have this sudden like shine and all this stuff, it won't do that on the Dublin. And it's honestly, it wouldn't be something that's noticeable to anybody else other than like the owner of this product or this piece. It's literally like life. Like it just
a little bit more richness from inside, kind of like
the glow back. Yeah, it brings that like sheen back.
Do me a favor though, if you ever so like these Clarks that were actually even better. These Oak Streets I've been wearing for like way too many years and like totally neglected. You would be amazed to see what Tanner's Blood does on old Chrome Excel. So when your stuff is starting to get when anything Chrome Excel is starting to get a little lifeless, take a little before and after, it'll blow your mind. Like the Tanner's Blend is like perfect for Chrome Excel. Like you're saying with the life, it almost looks like a desert in Africa, and then like the rains happen and like now there's life again. Like it looks like so dried out and dull, and then when you put it on, it looks like wet and like nice. Like it looks new. I'm excited for you to try it, honestly.
Yeah, I'll definitely document that, when I do it, probably make a video out of it or something. Yeah.
You should.
Yeah, that'd be cool. So
Well, thanks, man. Should we wrap it up? I gotta go to bed.
yeah, man, thank you for your time.
No, I
Like,
appreciate you having me.
like, not that it isn't fun talking, but like all of you makers, you are so busy. And so I
Mm.
know this is like a sacrifice. So I just want to like thank you, man. This is awesome.
It's a pleasure. It's not a sacrifice, it's a pleasure.
Have a great night, man. Yeah, and it was good talking. Yeah.
Thanks, David.